Well, I suppose we should talk about Impact. It was actually an acceptable television show this evening. I did not hate it. In fact, I think everybody that watched the show, which had been you and I, Rodney, and Horseman, all agreed that this was better than Raw and SmackDown.
The second half of it certainly was.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of it, frankly, was pretty goddamn atrocious.
There was some shit on this show, let's not lie.
But, yeah.
Before we get into it, however, I want to play a quick song just so we can break up the monotony of this show. There's never monotony on the Thursday show, I will say that. But let's play this song. For those of you in the Todd squad, you'll appreciate this particular song. Todd's rapping here.
Do you know what beef is? Do you know what beef is, Brian?
Ask yourself.
You know what beef is?
Beef?
Beef is when you need to get to go to sleep. Beef is when your mom ain't safe up in the streets.
Beef?
I see you. I see you.
But I heard that there's heat of beef. Beef?
I see you. I see you. You know what beef is, Brian?
Now ask yourself.
I eat it. There you go.
Word.
Oh, goodness. How white is Vinny, Rodney?
Very
white. Very white, Rodney said. Just to,
How would he know?
I cannot believe this. Rodney's appalled at you, Vinny. All right, let's do Impact here and get this show on the road. Go ahead, Vince.
Impact opened with the biggest star in the company coming out, Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm. That's no lie, by the way, as we'll get to in a moment here.
He said the network had booked. They had finalized the Sting versus Ric Flair match, the one they've been hyping for 2 weeks, the one Sting wants so badly he's willing to put his career on the line, is going to take place on Impact.
Yeah.
Not on a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
On Impact. So,
wait till you guys see what's on the pay-per-view.
He repeated the steps, which are it's Sting's career is on the line if he loses. If Sting wins, then he gets a match with Hulk Hogan. So he brought out Angle. He told Angle to cut the cancer out of Sting. I think he meant to say the Sting's the cancer of TNA and he needs to be cut out, but that's what came out instead.
I'm just wondering what the hell he was talking about regarding the network. He said only the network could make decisions on the spot. Not only the network, but he could as well. And said it was time they stopped bowing down to the network. Who has power? I still don't know.
It changes segment to segment.
Yeah.
No one ever has power until they decide they do and they use it.
I could have sworn I watched an angle where Hogan and Bischoff and the network were all on the same page. Now apparently they're not. I don't know what's going on this show half the time.
Half the time?
All the time.
Thank you. So, Angle came out, and it turns out that Sting, the former world champion, was getting his rematch on this show tonight with no build.
For the title.
For the world title. Mm-hmm. So to recap this segment, here's the bottom line. I'll sum it up for you in one sentence. Sting has to he has to go through Kurt Angle to build to a match with Ric Flair, which in turn will build to a match with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
That's the totem pole. Angle, then Flair, then Hogan.
Hogan is the grand prize.
Yeah.
Kurt, the world heavyweight champion, is the opener.
It's third.
Yeah.
He's the bronze medalist.
Now, aside from this being, that part there being very stupid, I thought this segment was fine.
The end, Hulk Hogan, the man who complains that the network has all the power, made himself the special enforcer for the match tonight. Mm-hmm. Sting did not care.
No.
Why should he care?
He cares now.
They advertised a cruise in which we have the opportunity to trap ourselves on a boat with the TNA crew.
Yeah.
Not a fan. We had promos from Bully Ray, Robert Roode, and James Storm. They were talking about winning the Bound for Glory series, because the top 4 get in, and they were 3 of the top 4. Now, did I hear them say, by the way, that tonight it would be decided?
Yeah.
Because what happened was, and I didn't think about this until right now. This is stream of consciousness reporting. Bully Ray, Robert Roode, and James Storm all talked about their spot in being the final four that advanced. It was the three of them, and Crimson, who had been in first, he was now injured, so he was out. So the next two guys on the list was Rob Van Dam and Gunner. So they had a match for the last spot in the Bound for Glory series.
Yes.
It was so important that the focus early on was on Samoa Joe coming out to interfere. At this point, Matt Morgan, who is too hurt to wrestle in the tournament, got in Joe's way. So Joe kicked his ass. Hell of a babyface, Matt Morgan is. So Joe, who came out to interfere, and then slowed down to beat up a 7-foot guy, at this point apparently changed his mind. He did not interfere. He just left. They wrestled for a while. Jerry Lynn came out, and Rob told him to go away, so he did. Then later, Rob went up top, and Lynn returned, and Lynn shoved Rob Van Dam off the top so Gunner could pin him. A swerve.
That is a factual reenactment of what occurred. So yes, everybody, I don't like to say I told you so, but I remember exactly where I was. I was at Cannon Beach. I was upstairs. I was talking to Dave, and we were doing a show, and he spent 15 minutes explaining how this tournament could work. And I spent 15 minutes telling him, Dave, it's not all Japan. It's TNA. This is not going to work. This has not worked. Samoa Joe has minus 10 points. Remember when he had minus 10 points a month ago? He hasn't had a single match since.
No.
These matches have taken place completely at random.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does everyone have 10 matches? Wasn't that first week AJ had like 3 matches against the same guy?
Probably.
It's not a round robin.
No.
It's not a single elimination. Matches take place completely at random, and we got a completely random list. And then the guy who had the most points got taken out of the tournament due to injury. Other guys got taken out of the thing due to injury. And now we've got 4 guys at the top, which they originally told us were going to take place. They were going to have a 4-way match at the pay-per-view. Now apparently that's just completely changed, and it's 2 singles matches. I don't even know what happens with these matches. Like the high point getters, or the highest point getter, or I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. I care. I care.
You didn't even mention the fact that Rob Van Dam is not in the finals only because Jerry Lynn has screwed him 3 times.
But I will say that Dave was right about one thing. I thought that there was no way in hell that they would even remember to keep this tournament going through Bound for Glory. So he was right. They did manage to keep it going for like 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
It was a complete clusterfuck, and like this tournament is even worse than the WCW tournament they had years back, where Medusa ended up in twice after she lost once. Because at least that was a single elimination tournament, and you could kind of follow it. This was just a bunch of dudes had matches, they threw up points on a screen.
This is a clusterfuck rumbling down a mountain.
No
just
human
out of
being,
control.
no human being in the world could care about this tournament. Like, even the most hardcore TNA fan, if you're a hardcore TNA fan and you email me to tell me that you actually care about this tournament, I will call you a liar. I just will. I mean, you really can't care. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's just totally impossible. Yeah, Gunner and RVD, everybody. There you go. Gunner is now in the Final 4.
All right, what do we always say about the knockouts in TNA?
They all bitch all the time.
They all hate each other. They all think they're all bitches and sluts and whores. And they scream this at each other at every opportunity. At this point, they all came out together.
Yeah.
The entire goddamn division.
Standing shoulder to shoulder like the cheer squad.
Winter was out there with Mickie. Angelina was out there with Velvet. Velvet was out there with ODB and Jackie. Sarita and Rosita were out there. They were all just chilling.
Yeah.
This show sucks. So,
actually, I like this segment. Bischoff comes out with Tracy, and the segment was awesome for like 10 different reasons, both good and bad. First off, it's just awesome that they bring all these girls out here that every week all these fucking girls do is fight each other and call each other terrible names. And they're all just in the ring standing shoulder to shoulder, all buddy-buddy. That's number 1. Number 2, Eric comes out, and as the story goes, Tracy Brooks fucked him twice so that he would give her the job of Knockout Law. So Eric comes out, and after all these weeks of teasing, we're going to find out next week if Tracy Brooks is going to be the Knockout Law. They don't even use the term Knockout Law once. The new term is VP of the Women's Division. I want to know who the president of the Women's Division is. Fuck the VP. So he comes out and he says, I want to introduce the new VP of the Women's Division. Only a woman can handle you women. Which, if you ever watch this fucking show, that's laughable. So he calls out Karen Jarrett. It's a swerve. It's not Tracy Brooks, it's Karen Jarrett. She proceeds to cut a promo on all the girls, and she's like the best heel of all time. It's a great heel promo for a bunch of reasons. You know, talks about how it's just a great promo in general, but then she had the line at the end, if you don't like it, you're going to find yourself sliding up and down a pole, which is ironic because Kurt Angle met Karen Jarrett in a strip club. So she cuts this promo, she buries all the girls, and the best part of all of this is that Tracy Brooks, the gimmick is that she fucked Eric Bischoff twice to fuck her way into a position at the top of the company. Okay, it doesn't work, and now she is a sympathetic babyface that we all need to get behind. Awesome! This segment was amazing! It was amazing. Only a complete imbecile could book this segment. And meanwhile, Karen Jarrett was like a shining nugget of gold in the middle of this. It was just... I liked this. I give this 2 thumbs up for my own personal entertainment.
During this segment, it was a crowded house tonight for Impact. Justin was also over here. During this segment, Justin proposed the Impact drinking game. Now, most drinking games, when you're watching movies or TV shows or sports, you're supposed to drink when a certain event happens. When somebody says a certain line or a certain action takes place. In the Impact drinking game, you just pour out a bunch of shots and you drink them.
Yeah.
As you feel the need.
Yeah, when a minute occurs on Impact, you drink.
If you're inhaling, do a shot. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like they took for Karen. Karen has her own music. It's Jeff Jarrett's theme mashed up with Ragdoll by Aerosmith. That made me laugh.
Great.
Yeah. And really, other than that, I don't have anything to add to this except I've not enjoyed it as much as you did. Just I don't know.
It was great. Jesse Sorenson and Brian Kendrick against Austin Aries and Kid Kash. I got to talk about this match because Austin Aries is one of, if not the best worker on this show. Kurt Angle actually got an awesome match out of Sting, so he probably trumps Austin Aries, but Austin Aries is way up there. And Austin Aries was thinking of quitting the business. Now he's working for TNA. Let me just send a message to Austin Aries. And I love Austin Aries. He's my favorite guy on the show. He's almost the best thing on every single show he's on. Some people think I don't like Austin Aries. But if Austin Aries is listening right now, stop doing stupid shit on this show. This show is a stupid show. Maybe 1.5 million people watch this show, which granted is more people than watched ROH on HDNet. But there is no good reason for you to do a stacked up superplex spot and land on your fucking head. There's like no reason for that. Whenever I see people do something in wrestling where they're almost guaranteed to get hurt, and if you saw, did I not say when they were setting this up, somebody's going to die? Did I not say that? I did say that.
Well, you see that every time they set it up.
Yeah, because anytime some people do a stacked up superplex, there's always somebody that nearly gets killed. Now, whenever I see somebody do something where they endanger their lives, I always hate to see that. But I've said it many times. If you're in the main event of WrestleMania, if you're even like in a top match at WrestleMania, if you're on the biggest show of the year in wrestling, and you decide to do something stupid, I still suggest don't do it. But at least it's WrestleMania. It's the biggest show of the year.
You will be remembered.
I did some stupid shit when I was a kid, too. But, I was 15. And my friends and I were like, oh, well, at least if you die doing this, we got it on tape. That's what we always said. It was stupid, but again, we were 15. Okay? If you're going to do something stupid in wrestling, do it at WrestleMania. Don't do it on Impact. Especially on a match that it's just a throwaway match in the middle of Impact that nobody's going to remember tomorrow. And if anybody does remember it tomorrow, that person is not going to remember it in a week. There is no reason to put your career on the line for a match on Impact. There's just not. I was so pissed off when they did this and he landed right on his goddamn head. Thankfully, he was fine. But if you go back and watch this, he literally could have been killed. He fell right upside down on his head.
From the top rope.
For what? Impact. Yes. Don't do that. I respect anybody that loves wrestling so much and tries that hard, but don't kill yourself for Impact. I promise you it's not worth it. I really, honest to God, do. So anyway, this was a great match otherwise.
It was a lot of insanity in 4 minutes. To give an example of why Impact is not worth dying for, the match they're building to is Austin Aries versus Bryan Kendrick for the title. So they built to this by having Austin Aries and Bryan Kendrick disappear.
Yeah, they brawled to the back.
They brawled to the back, and then Sorenson Kid Kash. Mm-hmm. To build to the mid-card X Division match instead. Mm-hmm. This is why you don't die for this company. They're not worth it. We had a winter highlight video, which I liked because they played her song. Her song's awesome. Then they interrupted it to go to a winter promo. It was as nonsensical as most of them are.
Thank God Winter alerted us that she was the champion, because whenever Winter and Angelina are in a room together and the belt's hanging there, I never can remember which one's actually the champion.
That had an amazing moment. Kurt Angle was hanging out in the locker room. Hulk Hogan stormed in all pissed off. Kurt had no idea what was going on. Hogan said, the network announced that Jeff Hardy's coming back.
That was a big announcement.
That was it, everyone. That was the reveal. Hulk Hogan caught on hidden camera telling Kurt Angle the network had announced Jeff Hardy was returning.
If you watch this show, like most people do, on DVR, and you fast forward through the commercials, there's a good chance you missed this. Because it came right after commercial break, right after a Winter Angelina video package you probably skipped through, and it didn't look like it was anything important at all. It's Kurt Angle sitting on a couch drinking coffee. And then Hogan came in and said Jeff Hardy's coming back. And that was it. That was a big announcement of his big return.
And Hogan ran down all his legal troubles and how he has screwed up their pay-per-view. And they were both justifiably outraged that he was coming back. And I don't blame them. This may have been legit outrage.
And then Hogan told Kurt to go kill the network.
Yes, go to New York and kill the network.
Those exact words, kill the network.
Yeah.
Questionable legality.
Mickie James versus Winter. An hour into the show, Mike Tenay casually mentioned that the building they were in was the site of the first TNA show ever. Mm-hmm. To which Taz replied, and I quote, well, that's a major deal there.
Yes.
Taz didn't care.
He did not care at all.
So
and why would he?
Angelina was there. She interfered 3 times. Mm-hmm. Finally, the ref said, fuck it, leave. Kicked her out.
Not a disqualification.
No.
The best was when she tried to throw the championship belt into the ring for her partner, and not only did the ref see her doing this, but he caught the belt.
Yes.
Not a DQ, of course.
No, that's when you have to go.
Yeah.
You had your theory a while ago that you can interfere once, but if you interfere twice, it's a DQ. Well, Angelina got it 3 times here, but then she was ejected. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's kind of a gamble. You might get away with it a second time, but on a third time you will then be ejected.
I think the reality is that there's no rhyme or reason.
That's also possible.
Maybe going out on a limb with that right there.
So
let me talk about this fucking finish. Angelina interferes 3 times, and she finally gets thrown out. So the ref is ejecting her and that sort of thing. And they do some more spots. The usual match, it hits a peak, keeps going, and going. People care less. So finally, Mickie is doing whatever, and Winter pulls out a scarf. What appears to be a silk scarf. Now, one would think, okay, well, she's going to choke her with it. Right in front of the referee? Well, sure, of course. But she doesn't go after her like she's going to choke her with it. She lifts it over her head like it's a weapon.
Right.
Like it's a chair. Like she's going to strike her with this silk scarf. So keep in mind, someone's interfered 3 fucking times in this match. And now Winter is about to give Mickie a scarf shot. So she's got the scarf over her head, like she's about to strike Mickie with it, and the ref comes up and she grabs the scarf out of her hands. So then, Winter puts her thumb and forefinger up to her jaw on each side, like she's going to blow mist, which I don't even know if she's ever done that a single time in TNA.
She did the pay-per-view.
Oh, she did? Okay. Well, she goes like she's going to blow mist. Maybe I'm the only one who even saw that anyway. I don't know. Because she just put it up there. She didn't even do anything. And she turns around and gets kicked in the head and pinned.
Okay. You're giving that too much credit. What happened was Mickie hit the slowest spin kick in recorded history. And then Winter, I can't say she took a bump. I can't say she fell down. Winter, I'm tempted to say melted. But even that seems to give too much credence and too much credit to how slowly she moved. She eroded the way a mountain erodes under a rainfall. This woman went from standing to the mat in no less than 5 minutes. She just went down and down and down. This is the way 3-year-olds lie down.
I feel bad for Mickie because, like, she went from WWE where you had Fit fucking Finley, as an agent for the women. And she goes to this company where...
Who the hell knows?
Al Snow and D'Lo Brown. Sure, they're all nice guys and all that. But based on the evidence, they cannot put a match together to save their lives. This was sad. Fit Finley used to be the agent for Mickie James, and now she's got... I don't give a fuck who's the agent in TNA. It's a step down from Fit Finley.
Yeah.
As was evidenced in this match. By the way, the Fit Finley match on the Evolve show, I have not seen it yet, but the DVD is out, and I know people have seen the DVD, and they said that obviously CM Punk and John Cena is going to win Match of the Year, but as an actual match, just two guys going in there and making it look like a real fucking fight. They said this Finley match is just like completely out of this world. So I got to watch this match.
He also has a match with Kevin Steen at Bola. And Sting, they put up PWG put up a highlight video on YouTube. And Steen linked to it on Twitter saying, "Here is Finley hitting me in the nose hard."
Yeah.
And
awesome.
Delivered, by the way.
Yeah.
Morgan came out. You recall earlier, Samoa Joe would beat him up.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Morgan then got in the ring and scolded Samoa Joe for trying to intentionally injure men. Matt Morgan's the man who, I believe, this year attempted to murder Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a change of heart.
Yeah, he's a good guy now.
He turned. He had a face turn. So Joe came out. They had a brawl that was longer than many Impact matches.
The hate just dripped off your lips. That turn.
They did all their spots they would have done if it was a normal match. And finally, Joe set Morgan up with his arm against the post and smashed the arm with a chair. Morgan went down, clutching his arm and screaming. And this resulted in a guy chanting Joe's name. You
know, I feel bad for Joe. It's not Joe's fault. But Joe comes out here. He gets his ass handed to him.
For months.
He finally makes a comeback with a low blow and a chair shot. And then he storms around ringside, spitting and all angry, and he says he's the baddest motherfucker on earth. And I'm just thinking, motherfucker, you have minus 10 points. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They actually think that we'll beat this guy week after week until he has minus 10 points in this tournament. And then we're going to make him mean, and he'll be over. Wrong! You have minus 10 points.
There was shit with Eric Young. Robbie E. and Rob Terry were involved.
I left the room. As soon as I saw Eric Young, I left the room.
AJ Styles and Daniels had a meeting.
I'm sure he's a great guy.
I have no idea what AJ and Daniels were talking. We had our own meeting in the living room that was just as interesting, I'm sure. Hulk Hogan gave Immortal a pep talk. About...
Who knows? Who cares?
Abyss was there and they all shunned him.
Now, let's shut up about all this stuff because this is where the show gets good.
This is where the show got good.
Yeah. Forget, if you were recorded this show, just fast forward to this point and you'll think it was one of the better shows of the year.
Chris Daniels wrestled AJ Styles.
God damn, this was awesome.
They had a fun wrestling match.
I'll bet these men put their own match together.
I bet they put this entire program together, actually.
This match was like, it told the exact story it should tell, which is that Chris Daniels desperately wanted to win. Mm-hmm. Like, far more desperately, everybody else wants to win their match. But they didn't want to win it like Chris Daniels wanted to win this match. And he was so frustrated anytime something went wrong. And he was trying so goddamn hard. And if something went wrong, he'd slap the mat and he was all pissed off. Not in an unbelievable way, in a completely believable way. So they do all the near falls and they do everything like that. And AJ finally goes for a springboard, but he slipped on the ropes and gutted himself. And rarely do you see a man so believably do a fuck up.
Yes.
And it was awesome. He bounced into the ring, and Daniels saw that he had gutted himself completely by accident, and he did not give a shit. He pounced on him and pinned him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he began celebrating like he had beaten this man in a catch-as-catch-can battle,
That's
clean
right.
as a sheet at WrestleMania. He jumped up and down and celebrated, and AJ, who had given him this shot, wasn't mad that his buddy had capitalized on his misfortune. He was like, all right, buddy, you beat me. And he offered him a handshake. And Chris Daniels was so excited to have beaten AJ Styles. He was now so convinced that he was the better man that he blew off his friend and left.
Yes.
Awesome.
He's going to celebrate his victory like a great thing. Whereas, in fact, AJ just fucked up.
This was so great. And the match was awesome.
Yes.
Everything about this was just, 5 thumbs up.
It does have it feels like something that AJ and Daniels got together and said, what can we do that's going to let us wrestle each other as many times as possible?
Why don't you just have AJ Styles and Chris Daniels book Impact?
Anyone else on the roster?
I'm sure it would suck, but if these two guys, if they could book a show just like this program has been booked and just like their matches have been put together, I'd watch this. This would be my favorite show of the week. This was so great. And then it got better. Well, I can't say it got better.
In a way.
But we got a great main event. We got Kurt Angle versus Sting for the title with Hogan as the guest enforcer. Of course, it's a main event in TNA, so it fell off a fucking cliff at the end.
Yeah.
But in the ring, they had a better match than they did at the pay-per-view.
Oh, yes.
These guys, I don't know what got into Sting. Maybe he knew he was going to do this on TV, and you actually had 1.5 million viewers. He didn't kill himself like these goofballs in the X Division.
They just worked their asses off.
But he just moved and ran and jumped and blah blah blah. They did near falls.
They worked hard.
All their spots. They switched up their spots. Sting went for the Stinger Splash. Angle caught him, hit a belly to belly. That was awesome. Just did a whole bunch of cool things, and finally Sting made a comeback and put on the death lock, and then the whole thing went to hell. Hogan calls men down to the ring. Angle is about to tap. Gunner gets in the ring with a chair. He gets in the ring with a chair. Of course, not a DQ. There's a man running around in the ring with a goddamn chair. That's totally fine. So the ref goes to get him out of there, and Angle taps, but there's no ref. And so then Hogan hits Sting with the chair. Sting doesn't sell it, which is actually fine because it's a horrible chair shot. But the point is, Hogan hits Sting with a chair and he doesn't sell it. The chair falls down. Angle then gives Sting the slam onto the chair, which moments ago didn't hurt Sting at all. Now the chair hurts, and Sting is pinned. So there you go. And then Sting just jumped up and didn't even sell it.
It didn't hurt him that bad, apparently.
And then Bully, Steiner, Jarrett, Abyss all hit the ring to kill Sting. Anderson made the save. The one thing, if you got this on tape, is there's this big schmoz at the end. You've got to rewind and watch how long it takes Hulk Hogan to get from inside the ring to outside the ring. And this fucking guy is going to have a match in 2 months. That's some scary shit right there. And all I could think was, here's Sting, 52, Angle, 42, I think. But these two guys are in there just working this crazy pace, and they're having this great match. And there's Hogan on the outside, who's going to be headlining against Sting at Bound for Glory. Mm-hmm. That's going to be some bad times.
It won't be as good as this match.
No, it will not.
There is no way that's possible.
And because of this match and the Daniels-AJ match, this was, in fact, a better show than Raw and SmackDown. Now, if you take those two matches off here, it was your typical god-awful, horrendous Impact. So, we need more good stuff on the show. How's that for revelation?
Let your good wrestlers have good matches.
We need more good stuff on Impact.
Impact opened with a note saying Jeff Hardy would return on the show. And they talked about everyone. They had clips of guys talking about how he had screwed up his career. And none of these men were identified. You only heard their voices, but they had Bobby Roode and James Storm and Matt Morgan and Jeff Jarrett. Mm-hmm. Hated heel Jeff Jarrett, talking about his big return. Anderson came out and was annoying as all hell.
Yeah.
He said he had signed a deal with the Devils, made a bad business decision. He invited the fans to boo him. They obliged. So did I. He said that he didn't like Bully Ray, and he wanted to take out Kurt Angle. He then accused Angle of ducking Sting.
Didn't they just have a match?
Kurt
last
Angle
week?
wrestled Sting in the main event of the last show. It was the last segment on Impact before this promo.
Yeah. In fact, since these were taped back to back, it was the segment that aired minutes before this promo.
Yes. The crowd sweetening in this segment was very obvious and very heavy. I think he called out Kurt. Sting came out instead. Sting announced that tonight he was wielding the power of the network. You see, the random, unexplained network people randomly, inexplicably put Sting in charge for the night.
Yeah. It's called lazy booking.
If they're inclined to do, why don't they do that every week?
It's called lazy booking.
Sting named himself the Enforcer for the Kurt Angle Mr. Anderson match that was apparently happening later this evening.
Mm-hmm.
For the second week in a row, we had an unannounced world title match.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, at this point, the pay-per-view had no main event.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything?
All correct.
All right.
Anderson did mention that he had joined Immortal, and then, like, weeks later, he'd been kicked out of Immortal, which... That's supposed to be his babyface turn. He did a heel turn joining and then a babyface turn after being kicked out. And he's mad at Bully because it's Bully's fault he was kicked out of the group and we're supposed to like him. And he was the most annoying man I've ever seen.
And
he promised to become even more annoying.
And also, I believe he has now turned at least 3 times in 2011.
Yeah.
It's September.
Nobody gives a shit about Mr. Anderson.
No. Devon and Pope versus the British Invasion.
Yes, Devon and Pope, now a team.
Yes, they are close friends.
Absolutely no problems.
They are brothers.
Yeah.
Got along fine. Had a 4-minute TV tag match. Perfectly fine. As you noted during this match, Brutus Magnus has improved tremendously.
Yes.
This was a TV tag match. It was what it was. The Devon and Pope won. Devon pinned Williams with a spinebuster. They are apparently getting a tag match at the pay-per-view because they won a match here.
Absolutely out of nowhere. They're friendly, buddy tag team partners.
No.
I mean, no even a hint of dissension after months and months of feuding.
Yes.
And they won one match here against the British Invasion on TV, and they're getting a tag title shot on Sunday. And they had Anarchy out doing a promo before. Was this billed as a number 1 contenders match or
I think in the middle of this, they announced the winner in a tag match.
Move on.
Angle was backstage, said he didn't believe Jeff Hardy would be there, and he was not sweating Sting as a special enforcer. Then Eddie Alvarez walked in from Bellator, a minor league fighting company. And Kurt Angle, who like 2 weeks ago talked about how Crimson, a TNA wrestler, was a geek who had never done anything and would never go anywhere, he was blown away by Eddie Alvarez.
Well, Eddie Alvarez has accomplished more in his career than Crimson will in the entire rest of his career.
I'm sure that's true. Angle was very impressed and very chummy and very friendly with this man, and they walked down the hallway comparing training tips. The 4 men surviving in the Bound for Glory tournament, which are Robert Roode, James Storm, Gunner, and Bully Ray. They all cut promos on each other, the highlight of which was Storm being upset. They brought in Ray.
Well,
he said,
they did not all cut promos.
Gunner didn't talk.
Yeah.
But Storm was upset. They brought in Bully Ray saying, "You were supposed to be able to draw. You ain't drawing shit." No one's watching Impact, is what he said. Or coming to our shows. Then the same 4 men were in the ring with microphones. Gunner didn't get to talk again. Ray started putting over Beer Money as a great tag team. Spent a lot of time kissing their ass, basically. And then said the problem was that for all they had done as a team, they both wanted to prove they could do it without the other guy. He said it happens to all the teams, happened to Hawk and Animal and Rick and Scott Steiner, it happened to me and Devon. During this promo, they were piping in a ridiculous amount of boos, and I don't even know why. It's not like he was saying evil things. He was not insulting anyone or slagging the crowd. He was pointing out tag team wrestlers have an interest in how they can do on their own. I'm sure that's true. So he explained these 4 men would have a 4 corners match later tonight. And he was going to compete because he wanted to hurt them going into the finals of the pay-per-view. Roode finally cut him off and said, "Everyone on the roster wants to be world champion. I want it. James Storm wants it. We both know only one man can hold that belt, so the question will be, who is the better man at the pay-per-view? It won't be Gunner. It won't be Bully Ray. It'll be myself or James Storm, and at the end, they will celebrate together. Nobody will break their bond. Nobody will ever kill beer money. And Storm did his catchphrase, and it ended.
Yep. It was actually, I thought this was a great segment.
This would have been an awesome segment if they were doing a 4-way tournament, like any other normal wrestling company, but they're doing 2 semifinals and then just picking a winner.
Yeah.
That part sucks. And it also made it clear and kind of heartbreaking that what's going to happen is Robert Roode is going to win this tournament. He's going to get the title shot, and then James Storm is going to screw him, and they're going to break up. That sucks.
Probably, yes, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I thought Bully Ray was awesome. I thought Roode was awesome. I mean, you know, they had Storm there in sunglasses and a hat, and it was like, okay, well, he's turning heel soon. Especially when Roode's talking about how they'll never break up. I mean, it's pretty much inevitable. But hey, you know, I'm not going to fault them for going the direction that makes sense based on what they're booking. You know, that's the whole fucking point of it. So, yeah, beer money breaking up, it sucks. But you know what? We've seen a lot of beer money matches. Let's let Robert Roode try to go as a single star. Let's give it James Storm a shot. At least it's somebody new. I don't need to see Mr. Anderson in main events ever again.
It's also, of the 4 men in the ring, if you're going to pick one of them to get a world championship match on pay-per-view, the answer is Bobby Roode by a wide margin.
Well, he's facing Kurt Angle, so it could be any of them.
That's true, too. Saw clips of Eddie Alvarez killing men for maybe 6 seconds. He was doing commentary for the next match. Eddie Alvarez did commentary for Eric Young against Robbie E.
Mm-hmm.
In a 90-second comedy match.
Actually, it wasn't even really a comedy match. It just... Eric Young is a clown.
Eric Young took his pants off.
Eric Young is a clown, but the fucker can work, which is the great tragedy of this.
That's what's so infuriating about this. Eric Young is so ridiculously talented. And he spends 6 months doing the worst comedy, well, besides this show.
6 months? This has been going on for like 2 years.
Yes. About once or twice a year, he gets to actually wrestle and be great.
They've killed him dead.
Oh, yeah.
He strips down to his green undies, he makes a comeback, he wins, some people cheer. It's impossible to take him seriously. And then Rob Terry kicked his ass. What a feud that's going to be.
Even better.
Yeah.
That sucked. Rob Van Dam confronted Jerry Lynn.
This segment was awesome. RVD goes up to him, and after... I don't know how long ago it was that Jerry Lynn screwed Rob Van Dam, seemingly weeks ago. RVD finally comes up to him to discuss this.
I think it was last week.
Still. He didn't... Where was he for the last 7 days?
I don't know.
He finally comes up to confront him about this. And he's like, why'd you screw me? And Jerry's like, well, we have all these great matches. Nobody gives a shit about me. They only care about you. These companies bring me in to have great matches with you, and then they don't give me a deal. I was forced to work in a warehouse 14 hours a day to try to make ends meet, living in poverty, and it sucks because I know I'm better than you. Perfectly rational argument. Rob Van Dam immediately beats his ass. RVD is supposed to be the babyface here.
Yes.
But these dim fucks don't have any idea what it means to be a good guy or a bad guy. And this stuff just makes absolutely no sense, and it's impossible to care about these people because this stuff is bullshit.
And that was awesome. Mickie and Velvet were backstage jibber-jabbering. They teased a title match between the two of them. They talked about a tag match on the show. There was a dog there. Karen Angle walked in, and this is something Dave pointed out in the newsletter. Karen Angle looks about 9 feet tall.
She's very tall.
Next to the other women in this company. And the thing is, it would be easy to not expose this. Last week, she was in the ring with all of them, a full head taller than anyone else. Why don't you have her do her promo from the stage? This segment here, she walks in, they're all standing there. It's clear what a giant Karen is and what midgets the other women are. They could have done this thing where Mickie and Velvet walked in her office and she was sitting down. This is not hard.
Or put the other girls on a box.
Or put them on a box. There's a million things you can do.
Put them in a box while we're at it.
To not make Karen look like a giant and the others look like pygmies. She also she booked Mickie in a title rematch of the pay-per-view, which is in 3 days. Mickie was fine with this. And she told Velvet to bring the house down tonight and also told her to lose weight.
Yeah, she's too fat, you see.
She's too fat.
She's not really that good looking.
Velvet's guy.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Angle versus Mr. Anderson. They were having a fun match.
Apparently it was last week that Jerry Lynn did that. How about that?
They were having a fun match. And then in the middle of it, Angle just swatted the ref. Not like he went for a clothesline, Anderson ducked. No, they were just brawling, and Kurt just hit the ref. So this just distracted the ref, obviously, and Kurt hit a low blow in the Angle slam and made a cover. And the ref recovered, and he dropped count 1 and count 2, and then Sting pulled him out of the ring. They yelled at each other for a while.
Not a disqualification.
Well, he was the special enforcer. I guess it's his job to pull referees out of the ring. But we'll get to this in a second. Angle yelled at Sting. Sting yelled at Angle. Anderson hit the mic check, at which point Gunner hit the ring for a disqualification.
Yeah.
Thank God there was a special enforcer there.
Yeah.
A special enforcer to stop interfering. Abyss came out, and Steiner came out, and Jarrett came out, and they all beat up Mr. Anderson and Sting.
Yeah. Your usual Impact shit finish. Nothing new.
Backstage, Immortal wanted to celebrate. The Jarretts wanted to dance.
I love this. So, this is the Impact Zone in an Orlando soundstage, and God knows how many rooms they have. All of Immortal is in there celebrating. Karen's doing her stripper dance. Scott Steiner's screaming. Eric Bischoff needs to use his phone, so he kicks all of them out of the room.
Yes.
You couldn't find another room to make your call? And then he got a call, and he said, oh my God, no, this must be a prank.
And then it ended.
Yeah.
Mickie and Velvet versus Winter and Angelina. Velvet looked barely adequate here, which is the best she's looked in months. They did a do-si-do spot, which automatically adds a full star to the rating. And then Winter spat red mist in Mickey's face and pinned her. We were told it was blood that she's spitting in people's faces. Her own? I don't know. Mickie was screaming like her face had been burned in acid as blood was spat on her.
I thought this was going pretty good until it kept going.
Yeah, I had that too.
It went on forever. Yeah, it wasn't horrible. I've seen far worse, but...
From Velvet.
This went on forever. It's very obvious, by the way, that they're going to do the... I shouldn't say it's very obvious because logic usually does not fall into these storylines, but I think we're going to see Winter versus Mickie, which one would guess based upon this finish. And then, for Bad for Glory, it'll be Mickie versus Velvet as Velvet attempts to win her first ever women's title so that she can cry in the ring for the great accomplishment that she has achieved.
I can't believe you put that much thought into it.
No, I'm sure that's where they're going. They did a segment where Velvet's backstage and she's begging to hold Mickey's belt. She's never held it before. It's a dream to her.
Let me change what I said there. I can't believe you put any thought into it. Not 1 second. From watching this show to talking about it now, did I think, I wonder what they will do next?
Yeah, that's my curse.
I guess so. I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. I just don't care. So, the next two segments were the absolute worst thing I ever saw, followed by the absolute best thing I ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Aries came out for a promo.
Oh, God.
Called Kendrick a hypocrite and fraud. Then Kendrick interrupted in a suit with some god-awful music, which is much worse than his previous god-awful music.
Oh, no, this is the music he uses for about 2 weeks now.
I didn't notice it before.
Oh, God, how did you not?
I don't know. It sucks. He had the orchestra thing for a while, which is weird. Now it's just, I don't even know.
No, this is the music he had when he debuted his new fucking pants.
I see. Listen, well, I'll save my thoughts on Kendrick for the end of the segment. He came out, he was in his suit, he had his hair tied back in a ponytail, he was being very wacky and pretentious, said he was trying to be more like Austin Aries, he was trying to enunciate better and speak more clearly, and dressed up and clean up in a suit. He said, I'm even wearing shoes today. Exact quote.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I'm even wearing shoes today.
Yeah.
Then he got angry with himself. He thought this version of himself sucked. He said people who wore jackets were slaves to a 9-to-5 lifestyle. And people who wore ties were really wearing nooses. And he said that he liked to go barefoot because society told him to wear shoes.
Yeah?
No.
Really?
No. You know who tells you to wear shoes? People who don't want to step on sharp things. They protect your feet. They're good for you. He talked about his God voice and some other shit. And I'm thinking, I have no idea what the fuck this idiot is talking about. Then he turns to Austin and says, do you know what I'm talking about? And Austin says, no, I have no idea what you're saying. So I'm already thinking, I can't wait to see Austin Aries kill this motherfucker. I want Austin Aries to skin him alive. And then as they're talking more, Bryan Kendrick sucker punches him.
Yeah.
Like a bitch.
Yeah.
And
Kendrick is a babyface, everybody. Austin Aries is the heel. I realize this has to be explained.
That cannot be true.
This has to be explained to people because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Austin Aries is supposed to be your top heel in the X Division, and Bryan Kendrick is supposed to be your top babyface and champion. Swear to God!
Bryan Kendrick has been very annoying the past couple of months, and in this segment, in fact, he was more annoying in this segment than Anderson was the open the show.
Let's not go.
If I could only fire one of these men and never see them again right now, I would fire Kendrick.
Well, we're on different pages.
That's my opinion.
Listen, Anderson's going to talk every week. Bryan Kendrick will talk every third week, and they're both going to wrestle regularly, and Kendrick will at least have better matches.
He's worse than the show. Thankfully, the show then turned around. Bischoff was backstage morose when Hulk Hogan walked in, and all I can say is that he was more Hulk Hogan than ever before. He walked in. Get a clip. Hang on. You talk about it. I'm going to find it and email you a link.
I wish, if you could find this, I will play it. Long story short, he walked in, and he was so happy that Sting and Mr. Anderson had been killed, and that all of his problems were solved, that he began howling and grunting and flexing madly and repeatedly as Eric Bischoff sat there as sad as a man could be. This was the best fucking thing on Impact in all of 2011. This was something where some of you that are young, that were not around in the heyday of Hulk Hogan, are wondering why this 57-year-old man is like an icon. You know, why does your average person, if you walk down the street, know who Hulk Hogan is? Why was he such a big star? Why did he get over more than any other random blonde musclehead from the 80s? Well, you watch this fucking segment. This man had more charisma than everybody in all the wrestling business put together on this particular evening. He was so excited. He was so Hulk Hogan. And when I watched him grunting and madly flexing and talking about how awesome he was, I thought, I can see Hulk Hogan waking up every morning, walking into the bathroom, looking into the mirror, and doing this exact same thing. He was excited. He was happy. He was announcing that they were going to go to the beach. He was so overjoyed. And then Bischoff said, the network called. They signed Angle, Sting, and Anderson for the title at the pay-per-view. And Hogan immediately did a complete 180, hilariously flipping out, saying, and I quote, "Oh my God, it can't get any worse." Which is something I proclaim every fucking week when I watch this show.
How many times have we said that about Impact?
It does always get worse.
It does always get worse.
You know the best part of this was, though, that just like, as awesome as it was still the stupidest segment of all time. Because Hogan comes in, and he's flexing, and his spittle is flying everywhere, and he's all excited, and he's got veins popping out everywhere as he flexes madly out of sheer joy and excitement. Because, as he says, Anderson and Sting got beat up so bad that they'll be out of action forever, and when they finally come back, they'll never walk again. That's pretty much exactly what he said. Anderson and Sting got beat up so bad that they're not going to be around for a long, long time, and if they ever come back, they won't be able to walk. That's what he said. It was then announced that they're wrestling on Sunday, and Hogan suddenly did that complete 180, as if the fact that they got side of the match meant that they had magically healed.
Yeah. Okay. These cocksuckers, they did not put this segment on their YouTube channel.
Really?
But you know what?
They put Kendrick's.
The fucking Kendrick one is on there right now.
Sure.
Oh, my God.
Hold on a second. Send me that link.
All right, hang on.
Maybe at the end of it, they go to the Hogan thing.
No, I checked.
Really?
There's an ad for Klondike, and then it shows Kendrick and Aries, and then it ends.
Huh.
Very, very sad. All right.
Oh, that sucks. Never mind. If it doesn't have it, don't do it.
All right.
God damn.
Yeah, that sucks. The other part of this, we watched Hulk Hogan enter this room and be Hulk Hogan a half dozen times.
Funnier every time.
It was. And then, when it couldn't get any more funny, Your wife started to imitate Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, she did.
And I was tempted to leap to my feet and run over to grab my phone and film this, but I think she may have noticed.
She, in fact, did the exact same celebration that Hulk Hogan did.
And the same noises.
Yeah. Yeah, hell of a job. I won't lie.
That's when I decided, in fact, that we needed to stop doing shows, just record your wife imitating Hulk Hogan every week.
Sure.
Better than this show for goddamn sure.
Sure.
And yes, we need the drop of Hulk Hogan saying, "Oh my God, it can't get any worse. It can't get any worse." Mm-hmm. That is our review of every Impact ever. So the main event, Bully Ray versus James Storm versus Gunner versus Robert Roode. In the promo, hyping this match an hour earlier, they announced it was a 4 corners match. Now, for no apparent reason, it was Tornado Rules first fall to a finish.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me. So you have a 4-way match with the 4 men fighting the pay-per-view. So how do you start? Why, with Samoa Joe brawling with Matt Morgan. Samoa Joe comes down to ringside. The 4 men in the ring just stare at him. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are you going to do, fat guy? You can jump in the ring and beat up all 4 of them at once? Sadly, we did not find out.
You got minus 10 points.
You got minus 10 points, bitch.
Try it.
Yeah. So then he got laid out from behind by Matt Morgan. They brawled. The 4 men in the ring watched them for a while, and finally they had their match and started. It was fine for a 4-way. It was, well, actually the finish was rather clusterfucky, but until then it was, not as clusterfucky as they often are. Beer Money were far and away the biggest stars before this crowd. They were into everything they did, especially the Beer Money suplex. They hit the suplex, they did their cheer.
Actually, they didn't.
What's that?
They went for the suplex, and Bully Ray gave him a double clothesline.
They did. Did I do this? They did their cheer. Usually they do the suplex and then the cheer.
Mm-hmm.
Point is, they did their cheer, and they turned around, and Bully Ray laid them out. He hit one of them with a Uranagi, and then jumped over him to get into position to hit Storm with a Bubba Bomb. And as he hit this move, Gunner swept in out of nowhere and hit Bully Ray with a knee to the head and pinned him. So Gunner won this match in a desperate attempt to give Gunner some kind of credibility. And then Gunner looked up. Remember we talked about how great Bret Hart's face was at WrestleMania 10 after he lost?
Mm-hmm.
This is the opposite of that. Gunner sat up with a look at his face like, holy shit, I won. Did I just win?
Yeah, keep in mind that Gunner had enough points in this tournament to be in the Final Four, and he still sold it like he could not believe he won this match.
Like, he could not believe he was so lucky that such a fluke had happened.
Way to get yourself over there, homie.
Yeah. So, Jeff's first appearance on Impact after months away of shame.
And by the way, let me just add one thing.
Sure.
Somebody actually emailed me tonight, and they said, can you please confirm that, in fact, in this Bound for Glory tournament, not everybody had the same number of matches? And I said, in fact, you are correct. Gunner had more matches than anybody, and he had approximately 3 times the number of matches as Scott Steiner. How do you screw up a tournament like this? But that's beside the point. The point is, why were there no points on the line for this match?
Who knows? Who the fuck knows?
Because it would have determined the winner. They didn't want that before Bound for Glory.
I guess.
Oh, my God.
Idiots. So, Jeff Hardy, you recall, he has been banished from TNA for months due to legal troubles and shame. His first appearance back on television, just cruising the hallways in a t-shirt like a geek.
Yeah.
Just sauntering down the hallway.
They didn't wait till the end of the show the crowd, and then bam, there's his music and there's Jeff Hardy. No, of course not. Before he came out before the crowd, before he came out for his first appearance on TV in months, they had a shot of him walking around backstage. Jeff Hardy is back, they said, as he walked around backstage prior to commercial. Because these guys can't do anything right.
No.
Even something wrong they can't do right.
So Jeff Hardy came out before the crowd.
Which astonishes me. You would think if it was something wrong, they'd figure out how to do that right.
No.
This is the wrong decision, and they still couldn't do it right.
Yes. Jeff Hardy came out before the crowd. They cheered him. He said he did not deserve their applause. He thanked the network for letting him come out and talk. Said last time he was in the ring, he was pathetic and messed up. He failed miserably and let everybody down. He said most people in the back were mad at him, and they had every right to be. Said he hit rock bottom at Victory Road, and he said, I just want one more shot. There's another wrestling show we watch called SmackDown. And a guy named Christian asks for one more shot every week after I have multiple failures, and it makes him a heel.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Crowd chanted one more shot, and Jeff said, all I can do is ask.
Tried to cry, failed.
And he left.
That's a segment, everybody.
That was what happened.
Jeff Hardy's back after, he's got to do his 10 days in jail first. Then he'll be back.
Just one more shot.
Just one more shot, guys. Just one more.
After being fired from multiple companies and suspended and showing up in no condition to perform while awaiting sentencing and trial for drug charges.
Yeah.
One more shot.
One more shot, everyone. That's Impact, everybody. All right, what are your thoughts on that TNA pay-per-view this weekend?
What a long, boring waste of time. Much like this show. You want more specific details?
I thought we were going to recap it on your dime.
You didn't say let's recap it. You asked me for my thoughts on it. Show opened with a 9/11 tribute. I was surprised, actually. I thought they would not even make mention of it. That's how little I think of this company. There was no mention of the fact that Jesse Neal, the guy in the sailor suit, had not been on TV in months, and no mention of the fact that, at this point, no mention of the fact that Rosita, the small woman holding the flag, was in fact the child of a 9/11 victim, or even the fact that there's a goddamn Olympic hero standing there between them. Just a bunch of guys out there standing still. Kid Kash versus Jesse Sorenson in the feud that started with a clean win and then built from there. It was a fun match, I guess. Jesse Sorenson is very, very, very green. And Kash did a moonsault and apparently hurt himself. Jesse won with something like a curtain call. That was that. There was a point here where Jesse used, I don't know what happened. It was supposed to be an Irish whip, but he grabbed it with the wrong hand and then turned the wrong way.
That was amazing.
It was defied all laws of physics, but thankfully Kash could not stop running, so it worked out for him.
That's wrestling.
It is, yes.
Mm-hmm.
We had an interview with Kurt Angle and Hulk Hogan. Hulk mumbled over his lines for a bit. Kurt walked away. This accomplished nothing. James Storm versus Bully Ray. Couple things. First of all, they showed a leaderboard of this stupid tournament. 1/4 of the participants, maybe it was 1/3. 1/3 of the participants are injured. 2 of whom, in fact 3 of whom by the end wrestled on this show.
Yeah.
Yes, so. And in fact, 2 of them as a team won a match on Thursday.
You know what's funny is so I knew why 2 of the guys were hurt, obviously. I knew what happened to Crimson. Joe beat him up. And I knew what happened to Morgan. He tore his pec. But Pope and Devon, it's like they wrestled on Thursday. They couldn't have been hurt that bad.
Yes.
So presumably when Joe beat him up and they missed like a week of television, missing a week of television caused them to be bumped out of the tournament.
Exactly, yes. They missed this in the 47 lines of point scoring.
Now, the comedy of this would be if, in fact, all of the wrestlers had the same number of matches, and you missed a week or 2 of television, and thus you didn't have 2 matches, and so it was an uneven playing field, that would make sense to pull them out of the tournament.
Sure.
But when Gunner has, 23 matches, and Scott Steiner only had 11, it's preposterous.
Of course it is.
I hate this tournament. I don't even fucking like sports, and I hate this tournament.
It was the worst ever. So there's that. Now, speaking of injuries, James Storm, who was not injured in the tournament, is in fact injured in real life.
Yeah.
So, they had him wrestle here, and they had a long match.
Mm-hmm.
So what we had on pay-per-view was Bully Ray stalling for probably 3 minutes or more. Went outside, stood in the corner, went on the other side of the ring. It went on and on and on. I know.
See, I don't have a problem with this at all because at least Bully Ray got some heat, unlike 95% of everybody else on this show.
This does not fly on pay-per-view in 2011.
It was fine.
I
will say this, though. I was fine with Bully Ray stalling because it was getting people to really dislike him even more. With that said, if you watch the Bully Ray Robert Roode final, 2 men who are actually healthy, that match seemed to go about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So why couldn't you have given that match more time than this match with the guy that's hurt?
There's 100 things they could have done better than just have James Storm, you're less than 15 minutes. Even Taz noted that he'd had it with Bully Ray stalling. The viewing audience had it. The director had it. So, eventually they started wrestling. James Storm kept going for arm breakers. James Storm has never beaten anyone with an arm breaker, so no one in the crowd cared. And eventually, this was the first time on the show, we had Bully Ray distracting the ref and spitting beer in Storm's face. So when Storm tried to come back, he was too stupid to distract the ref. And in fact, Bully Ray ducked, and Storm spat beer on the ref, and thus he was disqualified. That was the finish.
Why would James Storm try to spit beer right in front of the referee? That makes him a dumb babyface.
Makes him a dumb person.
And whether Bully ducked or not, he was going to get disqualified.
Huh?
So why did Bully even have to duck?
Don't know. This is...
Not a lot of thinking went into this finish.
No. This was everything I hated about wrestling right here. This was terrible. Then Bully Ray called Val a bitch. Because he has to. Because he's a TNA wrestler and there's a woman nearby. We had a Winter versus Mickie James. I wrote way too much about this match. I can tell you this much right here. Tanae, Angelina was there, and she was brawling on the floor with Mickie a minute in right in front of the ref. She did some other stuff, and eventually Mike Tanae said she was, quote, interfering frequently tonight. He said this the way a weatherman would say, partly cloudy.
Yeah.
Just a random, pointless observation. He was not outraged. He did not care.
Because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't fucking matter. There was bullshit with a belt that I didn't even realize was in the ring. They kept on wrestling. Angelina, who had been openly fighting with Mickie and exchanging blows, was suddenly scared of her and ran to the back. Mickie chased her. Then she stopped on the ramp. She realized she was being counted out. She looked at Angelina. She looked at the ref, and she was torn. This is a difficult decision. Do I go back and defend the title, or do I chase this girl who I fight all the time anyway? So then, she went back to the ring. Angelina returned. Angelina had her on the apron. The ref had to pretend he couldn't see it. Then Angelina got sprayed with blood. Then nobody did anything for several seconds. Everyone just stood there. And after all this, Mickie James was sprayed in the face and pinned anyway. Apparently, Mickie was champion here. We were all confused. We just thought Winner was champion. We forgot.
So based on one person missing and another person being hit, that is now 4 incidents where someone sprayed and missed at another person's face.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
back to back.
I suppose to be fair, if I was going to be fair and unbiased, I would have rated this a dud. But since I hate this company and all this bullshit they do, negative 1,000 stars.
Wow.
I hated this.
It did suck, I'm not going to lie. You know, somebody on the board, because I was ranting about this deal too, about how Angelina gets in the ring with the belt, and the ref just looks at her, and as she goes to swing, he grabs the belt and takes it away. And I was ranting about this, and someone's like, after all these years, Bryan hasn't figured out that you're allowed to bring something in the ring as long as you don't hit someone with it. You're allowed to interfere as long as you don't actually touch anybody. And, hey, maybe those are the Impact rules, but let's just stop for, just a second and think about this. If I am wrestling you, Vinny, and I put you in a sleeper, and you refuse to tap out, and you just go unconscious, the ref is immediately going to break the hold. Why? Because if I keep the sleeper hold on you after you go unconscious, perhaps you could die or suffer permanent brain damage. If I take you to the corner and I'm booting you, and the ref goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I keep booting you, I get disqualified. I'm not listening to the referee. I'm not listening to the rules here, and so I'm disqualified. So according to these TNA apologists here, if you and I are wrestling, and I go to the ring, and I enter the ring with a freshly sharpened giant axe, that is totally illegal. Unless I take said axe and I split your skull like an apple. I split you from skull to crotch. If I chop you completely in half, is disqualification. But if I just enter the ring with a giant axe, apparently that's okay. And if I go to the ring and I pull out a shotgun and I jump in the ring and I aim right at your head, this is totally okay to these TNA fans. It's all right. Because the rules are you have to use the weapon to be disqualified. So if I get in the ring and I threaten your life with a shotgun, that's okay. But if I pull the trigger and your brains fly into the crowd of the impact zone, then it's a disqualification. This is the stupidest rule I've ever heard of in my entire life.
It's a stupid company.
It really is.
At this point, because of their wacky scoring system, Robert Roode and and Gunner, were going to wrestle, and both men had to win by submission to tie Bully Ray. No one said what would happen if they tied Bully Ray.
No, there was zero discussion whatsoever here for the final match.
They simply said you need to do this to tie him. So, Gunner vowed to win. Bully Ray interrupted, told him not to give up under any circumstances, and that was the whole point of this, was for him to browbeat Gunner into not quitting. Shouldn't he have said, take this weapon, take a shotgun or an axe or a tire iron or whatever, run down there and hit Robert Roode with it as many times as you can.
Sure.
You'll be disqualified, he'll only get 3 points, and I will win.
I was wondering why he didn't run in. Makes no sense.
That's actually a good question, too. Why didn't Bubba run in himself?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Why didn't Bubba just run in and hit them both with a sharp axe? Mm-hmm. Because then it would be a double disqualification and he'd win.
Yeah.
So why didn't he do that?
I don't know.
Because they don't think.
No.
They think just enough to have a stupid tournament.
Speaking of stupidity,
I'm leaving you on your own. I got to go turn the air on.
Devon and Pope, both of whom were too injured to wrestle in the tournament, had a tag team championship match. They came out, Mexican America came out to USA chants. I'm sure Rosita was heartbroken to hear these USA chants. So, they're doing this match, and Rosita jumps up on the apron to distract the ref for no reason, and then she stopped distracting him when Pope had a cover so he could count the pin. That's not how you do it. So, Pope was mad at her, went on the apron to confront her, he kissed her, she slapped him, and at this point, he grabbed her by the head and picked her up. Now, obviously, she was holding onto his hand. She was not really being suspended by her head, but he was holding her by the head with one hand. That's a tiny, tiny, tiny little woman. So after all that, Sarita just interfered for the heat anyway. It kind of drove me insane. Once they had the heat, this was a completely average formula tag match. Nothing wrong with it at all. Hernandez at one point had a cool crucifix pose, top rope splash. I like that. And they did get the girls involved, where Pope and Devon gave them a double team spanking. At which point Taz said, I've had that done, not with bright lights like this. I like Taz. And so finally, Pope went for a suplex, but Sarita tripped him from the outside and held his leg down for the pin. The end of this match was good. The middle was average. The beginning sucked, so call it 2 stars. And a Mr. Anderson interview. He said, God, it sucked. Said he and Singh hated Immortal, but they're not friends. There was shitty comedy about adages and sunsets. It just hateable.
He's so not funny.
No.
And he's so legitimately annoying.
Yes.
Not in a good way. Like,
he has turned the channel heat.
Yeah.
We had Samoa Joe versus Matt Morgan, the third man on the show who was not for the tournament due to injury, but is still wrestling.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, the heel in this match, hit a big elbow suicida to get a giant pop. Matt Morgan, I'm almost positive here, became the tallest man ever to hit a top rope body press. He must be.
I think I've seen him do it before. But it's still him.
It would still be him. All right. So after this giant man had a giant dive, Joe cut him off and then went back to the heat. They had a brawl. Samoa Joe has gotten so lazy that Matt Morgan is now the better striker. Think about that. And then there was a point. I forgot how the longer this went, the worse it got. Joe hit the ropes, and he ran toward Morgan, and Morgan stood there, and Joe just ran into him and gave him a giant hug.
He did.
I describe this move as a running I love you, man.
I think, obviously, Morgan was supposed to strike him with something.
He was supposed to do something.
But he didn't, and so Samoa Joe just
hugged him.
And
it's going to be okay, brother. It's going to be okay, brother. We'll get through this. That's what he said. So he hits it, he turned it into a belly.
And it wasn't like, sometimes Kurt Angle will catch someone coming off the ropes in that big bear hug, and he's setting up for a suplex.
Right.
This was not the spot.
No.
Because Joe gave him the most gentle hug you've ever seen.
This is not a bear hug where he tried to squeeze his ribs, nor was it, as you said, a Kurt Angle grab where he's going to throw the man.
It was a gentle.
This was a tender embrace.
Yes.
This was a consolation. So after several seconds of love, he hit the suplex and he sneered in an attempt to look like a badass. He failed. Joe put a choke on. Morgan got the ropes, and then Morgan dodged a charge, and he hit the brogue kick for the win.
Yes.
Samoa Joe.
I just feel bad for the poor fucker. Minus 10 points in the tournament, and then you give him a match with Morgan, and he loses on pay-per-view.
I also love that they shot the angle where he broke Crimson's leg, so you think, okay, Crimson's going to come back and get him. Now Crimson gets to beat the fat guy who can't win.
Basically, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, why couldn't Samoa Joe beat one giant, set up a match with another giant at Bound for Glory?
Because that would make sense. Roode got a promo, said it was his time and his dream, and he'd walk into Bound for Glory and win the title. So he said he was going to tap out Gunner, he was going to kick Bully Ray's ass. And I was trying to figure out why he said this, because I still didn't know what would happen if they were tied. But Storm told him to beat Gunner and, quote, beat that fat piece of shit's ass. He said, the people believe in you, I believe in you. Do it for me, do it for them, do it for beer money, and do it for yourself. It was a good promo. And so we had Roode versus Gunner, where both men needed a submission to tie Bully Ray. And they never said what would happen. During this match, the only thing that matters, Robert Roode took the greatest DDT bump of all time. He landed on his head and managed to stay balanced upside down on top of his head, with his arms at his sides, mind you, for several seconds. I don't know how you could do this, like if you're just alone in a ring balancing on your head, let alone working with another guy and doing it in the motion of taking a DDT.
It was quite awesome.
It was really, really awesome. The finish was...
Crippler crossface.
Oh, yes. So Roode hooked a Fujiwara armbar, and Gunner got the ropes, so Roode pulled him back in and put in a crossface, and he tapped. It was not much of a match, honestly.
Nobody cared at all about Gunner being in the finals.
No.
Which is funny because, I mean, yes, Gunner got a pinfall on Thursday, but he sold the pinfall like, I can't believe I won.
I can't believe a doofus like me did something.
Even though he's in the Final Four, he should have some confidence in himself.
Nope.
But they did an interview, they blew him off, they had, at the beginning of the show, Bully said he had no chance to win. So, of course, he does a match and nobody gives a shit. And then he lost.
Mm-hmm. So Roode was about to
Gunner
leave.
cut a promo on internet fans on Twitter a couple of days ago.
I heard.
Bitching and moaning and crying. He should be bitching and crying and moaning about the people that wrote this fucking show. They're the ones that made you look like a goof.
I know. I don't, yeah.
And then Bischoff came out and announced that...
Well, he announced that he had a surprise for Roode. He said that they were going to do Ray versus Roode, unadvertised, unpromoted, he said.
That's what he said.
And he's going to do it tonight, with the idea being that... And he called Roode a dumbass, and the idea was that he was going to ambush Roode after this grueling match by having him wrestle Bully Ray tonight, and then he left.
Yeah.
The match was not right now.
I didn't understand this at all. I think
he was
Bischoff,
nice enough to give Roode a chance to recover.
This was a horrible promo by Bischoff. He forgot what he was supposed to say.
He
didn't know what he was supposed to say.
Yes.
Not good.
Aries cut a promo that was much better. Said he would win. Austin Aries versus Bryan Kendrick. A true embarrassment of a champion Bryan Kendrick is. So, he used the exact same armbar that Robert Roode had tried. Still nobody cared. Because you see, nobody ever uses submissions in front of this crowd, especially Fujiwara armbars, so they don't know how to react. And during this match, on that note, it occurred to me, and others have said this, and I finally decided they're right. They need to leave the Impact Zone and never, ever, ever return.
It ain't the Impact Zone. It's not the Impact Zone.
It doesn't help.
You know why the Impact Zone sucks?
Because the wrestling sucks?
Because they see the same shitty fucking show every week.
That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah, but if they went on the road, they'd have like maybe a year. Actually, it wouldn't even be a year because they don't have that many cities they could go to. They'd go to about, 15 different cities, and they'd all get a big pop the first 15, and then the second time through, nobody would care. And by the third time through, absolutely nobody would care. You'd have the same problem.
Maybe it will be a temporary fix, but here's the thing. The Impact Zone... This crowd has been trained for years to not react to wrestling. They have been trained to react to run-ins and catchphrases and maybe even swerves. But two men doing moves they have been taught is boring, and you should not care.
Yeah.
And there was a point here where Austin Aries, he does the pendulum elbow he does, and before he does it, he waves his fingers at the crowd and gets them to cheer. Been doing it for years and always works. And he wiggled his fingers at the crowd, and he got no response. And he waved and waved and waved. He's looking at the hard camera, where, of course, there are no seats on that side. So he has to turn his back to the camera to look at the people and wave at them, saying, please make noise. Any of you. Anyone. Just make any sound at all whatsoever. They've ruined it. It's polluted for life, like Chernobyl. Can never return. They were like... Aries did a corkscrew pescado. Bryan Kendrick did not catch him at all. They did some more stuff. There were exactly two men chanting, "This is awesome." They were lying. And They did a finish where the ref kind of, sort of got involved. He wasn't bumped. He didn't miss anything. He didn't shove anybody. He just like...
They just had to have the ref...
Yes. He's like in the way at one point.
Yeah.
For no reason. Aries did a brainbuster for the win. Hopefully Kendrick was retired by this move.
Oh, Vinny.
Don't like him. Not a fan. Not a fan. So there you go. The right man won, for God's sake. Had a Bully Ray promo.
This was awesome. He goes, I didn't come here tonight to wrestle twice. And I was like, did you not look at the standings? You're in the final fucking four, and you didn't bother to look at the standings to see that, in fact, it could end up a tie, and
Brian,
you'd probably have to wrestle again.
He probably didn't understand it either.
That's a fair point.
Okay. So he pointed out Bound for Glory was in Philly. He had to be in the main event there. He knew Robert Roode's neck was screwed up, and he talked about all the things he was going to do to hurt the neck. So then they came out. There was, in fact, more heat for their stare down than anything else in the show. And then Bully Ray decided to stall more. And then here he is in the finals of this tournament where he's one of two men to make it through 12 competitors, and he goes over to intimidate a fan, and the fan stood up, was bigger than him, so he ran away. He put the fan over.
Yeah.
Bobby Roode, by the way, is that's what's discussed later. He's going to be main eventing a pay-per-view. Coincidentally, bigger than ever.
Yeah.
Funny how that works. So they had a chop fest, and they're doing this match, and Ray hits this great Uranagi and goes for a near fall. No one gave a shit. He made the cover, and the ref counts 1 and 2. At the last second, Roode kicks out. No one cared at all. And then after the kick out, there was a mild reaction where they tried to clap and rally Bobby Roode because they suddenly understand, wait, it's our spot. That's not like they were into the match at all. They had no emotional commitment. They just knew what they were supposed to do because they were a wrestling crowd. So they hit their spots and they chant for the faces and cheer when the faces win, but they don't actually get into the match. And finally, Ray missed a senton, and Roode just hit a spine buster and pinned him.
You know, Bully Ray as a heel going for the singles world championship against Kurt Angle in Philadelphia, that actually would have been money. Not like a lot of money, but per TNA standards, I think that would have been a pretty big deal. Bully Ray as a heel in Philadelphia against Kurt Angle for the championship. I like Bobby Roode and all, don't get me wrong, and they're probably going to have a better match.
Yeah.
But Bully Ray has been so fucking great, and to be challenging for a title that, here's the key. If Bully Ray was challenging for the WWE title, I don't think anybody in Philly is going to believe he can actually win that fucking thing. But Bully Ray challenging for the TNA championship, I realize this is strange logic, but I think fans would believe he can actually win this world championship, and he could win it in this town. I think that would have been like a great crowd response. I think it would have been a fun match. I think it would have had dueling chants, you know, and Kurt's from Pittsburgh. So, you know, I don't know how they'd react, you know. I just think it'd be, I think it would have been really cool, but they fucked it up.
And they can fuck up anything, as we've learned. Yeah, you're not wrong about any of that. And they could have had Bobby Roode get his title match somewhere else, but they had to do it this one because that's their plan. So then we had it was a weird segment. I'll say that they brought in Rosita, and Borash gave her a real name. They talked about her dad and how he got her into wrestling and encouraged her to be a wrestler. Taught her how to do a proper headlock, which means she's one of the few people in wrestling who can do one now. And the crowd was cheering at completely random points, so I assume they didn't see this at all.
I think they did.
No, well, maybe it made sense, but it seemed to me like she would just be in like mid-sentence and they just start cheering. So she talked about losing her dad and hearing his name at the ceremony and all the support from the fans. And she just wanted to say thank you. It was a nice segment and all, but two things. Is she still going to be Rosita and part of Mexican America now?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. It is one of those segments, and they did this on Raw too, where they say everything else is fake, but this is real. And also, why do it at this point in the show? Why not mention it during the 9/11 tribute that opened the show?
I just thought it was kind of weird because, like, she's adorable. Just a completely gorgeous girl. And she's tiny. It's hard enough to be a tiny heel as it is. Mm-hmm. And she could be a huge baby face even without the 9/11 stuff. But that being her real life story, And the fact that she got a lot of, she was on, I think it was NBC, ABC, whatever the Children of 9/11 special was on. Mm-hmm. She had that as well. And I just don't know why she wasn't a babyface at this point. I mean, it's not like nobody knew the 10th anniversary of 9/11 was coming.
Right.
It's kind of, I think people have been knowing it's coming for 10 years, that in 10 years it's going to be the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. So it's not like this just came out of the blue. I just watched it and I was like, why is this girl a heel? I don't get it. I mean, it's not like the Mexican America Act is just absolutely so hot right now that she's like a very important part of it. Or that they're not going to be just as hot as they are right now if they are hot or whatever they are. It's not like her not being a part of it is going to make any difference. Why couldn't she have just been their one of their lead babyface girls? I don't know. I didn't get it.
Because they don't know what they're doing. Speaking of this main event, Sting versus Kurt Angle versus Mr. Anderson.
Sucked.
Sting is coming to the ring. Mike Tenay is talking about how he needs to regain the power and control that comes with the title. I know I've said this a million times, but they keep bringing it up. Sting had the title. Sting had the title, I think, for months. What power and control did it bring him when he had it then? What did he lose? What power and control did he lose when he lost the belt? We've been asking this question for years now. Are we the only ones?
Well, presumably. No one else cares enough to ask. There are a lot of TNA main events that have shit finishes. Maybe good matches or decent matches with just shitty finishes. This was the finish was shitty. It was the fifth time on one show that somebody sprayed something in somebody else's eyes. Mm-hmm. You know what Tim Flowers would have done? If the finish of his main event was spray perfume in someone's eyes or whatever.
If Tim planned to have, if Tim's finish was going to be perfume spray and somebody else sprayed something in somebody's eyes prior to that, Tim would ensure this never happened again by removing the eyes of everyone on his crew.
It'd just be the end of that guy. You'd never see that guy again, ever.
Yeah.
But not TNA. The finish of the main event involves something being sprayed in Sting's eye by Hulk Hogan to set up a match at their biggest show of the fucking year.
In TNA, if it's good in one match, it must be better in 3 matches.
And they okayed it in 2 other matches. It's just mind-boggling. So anyway, match completely sucked.
Yeah, I don't even care about the finish.
The match sucked.
This was
the finish sucked. It just sucked. Everything about this sucked.
This is the least intense World Heavyweight Championship match of all time. I have had more heated matches in an unheated warehouse in Tacoma. Taz at one point was discussing forearm placement just to keep himself entertained. So it's a 3-way match for the world title on pay-per-view. And there's a point here where Angle had Sting in a body scissors and Mr. Anderson was nowhere to be seen. There was no motion. There was no movement. They may have passed on, and we would not have realized it in this main event world title match on pay-per-view. Just complete garbage. This was insulting.
It just sucked. I mean, it was like nobody cared. The guys in the ring didn't care. They knew it was just a stupid match. It meant nothing, that nobody was watching. And that's the match we got. And it was depressing. I paid $44.90. I didn't pay the $54 because I wasn't getting HD, but I paid $44.95 for this. I didn't get a dime from anybody else watching. Not that I asked for it, but point remains. I paid $44.95 out of my own pocket, and this was the main event I was presented.
Yes.
That's what pissing me off.
You should be pissed off.
I am the most... Well, I mean, I do because it's my job. But let's just say it's not my job, and I'm just like one of the most goddamn loyal fans on the earth. One of the 7,000 fucking people that actually buys TNA pay-per-views. I go out of my way to get Sunday off, not watch football or whatever the fuck's on, and I pay $44.95 out of my own fucking pocket during a recession or whatever we're in right now. We may be heading for a double dip. But the point is, I pay that money out of my own pocket, and what do I fucking get? This.
Yeah.
So fuck off. You wonder why nobody buys these pay-per-views, besides the million obvious reasons. This is another one.
Because the product is not worth it.
This is what I was presented for the money that I spent being a loyal customer.
Yes.
So they can fuck off. This show sucked.
This show sucked, and I can't wait for the company to die.
Start the Impact review.
Impact opened with Ric Flair coming to the ring. He had his fancy-ass robe on. He said he didn't want to wait. He wanted to talk to Sting right now. Sting came out in his own fancy-ass robe. He was not intimidated by Flair. He cut a promo on Flair saying that if the only way he could get...
It's quite a spirited review you've got going here.
If the only way he could get to Hogan was over Flair's dead body, then Flair had to die. I know it's a wrestling promo. I know guys say mean things in the promos all the time. Please don't tell me that Ric Flair is going to die. Please don't tell me that. Don't tell me Ric Flair is going to die, because it's possible.
He's an old man.
As was evidenced on the show. Besides that little detail, this is a great Sting promo where he was not jokery at all. He was just an intense, crazy guy who was, well, going to kill the old man in front of him because that's what he had to do. Jeff Hardy was backstage talking about how he was back and wanted to be accepted. Chrissy Hemi's nipple introduces the next match.
Whoa, you're jumping forward here.
What I missed?
First off, you missed a bunch of things. They're actually doing a TNA Coastal Chaos Cruise.
I saw that commercial.
You can get on a boat with the stars of TNA.
Can you throw them over?
Starting at $379. Which I don't even know if that's too much or too little.
It is a cruise.
You're going on a full cruise with a bunch of supposed television stars. It's only $379. That's one way to look at it. Or you can look at it like, I'm going to go on a boat with like Mr. Anderson, and they're going to charge me $379. So pick your poison. And Jeff, by the way, noted his first step was taken in Huntsville when he asked the fans for forgiveness, and now he needed to take the second step, which is addressing all the boys and trying to make things right. So this is part of, apparently, his 12-step plan.
Back to more important things. Christy Hemi's nipple. It introduced the next match. Mexican America versus Pope and Devon and Brooke and Tara.
Tara, you say.
Tara. Victoria. Rosita, after being she went on the pay-per-view, she went from an evil Mexican to a heroic American to an evil Mexican again, and now she's an evil Mexican again.
Who's actually Puerto Rican.
Who even better. They just completely ignored the entire pay-per-view segment. So,
well, yeah, that didn't count.
No one watched it.
Oh, that is also true.
Yes. So they're having this match, and the guys are doing all the work. The good girls finally chase the bad girls around the ring. Then the bad girls hit on Devon's kids for a while. This made Devon...
Who loved it, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say. And why not? Two hot girls are hitting on you when you're, what are they, 18, 19, 20?
Something like that.
Anyway, yeah, this is good news all around. It made Devon angry. I can only assume because he was jealous. The Mexican men attacked him from behind, and they got cut off anyway. So there's no point to this angle whatsoever. And finally, all the girls ended up in the ring, and the good girls scored a double pin on the bad girls. Victoria hit like a spine buster on one of them.
It was a sky-high power bomb.
Same thing. And in the other matchup, which you couldn't really see because it was behind Victoria, it sure looked like Brooke Tessmacher hit a standing Hurricane Rana.
Sure.
And I thought, holy cow, that's the most athletic thing she's ever done. Let's see a replay.
Actually, you're underestimating Brooke. If you actually watch the matches, she's one of the best workers in the entire female division.
All right.
You got to watch her. She's way better than 80% of the girls on this show.
I'm sure she's better than Velvet.
You just are distracted by her ass the entire time.
And I'm fine with that.
Because you're a lecher.
Because it's a great ass.
Is that a word? I know that lecherous is a word, but is a lecher a noun?
It should be. One who leches.
Kind of unwieldy. They're trying to do spots with 8 different people.
Yeah.
And God knows what agent put this match together. But I've seen much worse. It was fine.
So I wanted to see this finish again and see this cool move Brooke did. We didn't get to. No replays ever in TNA.
Well, they got a lot of stuff to do.
It was very important that we see a meeting backstage with Karen and Tracy.
I hate...
Everything?
Tracy and Karen are having a meeting. So, Tracy hates Karen because Tracy fucked Eric Bischoff 3 times to try to get a job, and Eric ended up giving that job to Karen. So Karen made fun of Tracy because her tits are hanging out, and she called her a 5 and dime hoe. And Tracy, who, as noted, fucked Eric Bischoff 3 times to try to get a job, could not believe that she had been called a 5 and dime hoe. So, to recap, the storyline is not that Tracy worked her ass off to try to get this job, and Karen fucked Eric and stole it out from underneath her. No. Storyline is that Tracy fucked Eric 3 times to backdoor, so to speak, into this job, and Eric gave it to Karen, who had not fucked Bischoff, instead. And we are supposed to hate Karen and feel bad for Tracy. I'm not making any of this up. I'm not making I'm not over-exaggerating. I'm not making any of this up. That is the storyline.
I thought Tracy only fucked him twice.
No, apparently it's 3 times.
Because when Karen came... whatever.
It doesn't matter. The point is she tried to sleep her way up, and it failed, and now we're supposed to feel sorry for her and be offended when someone calls her a hoe.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
It is. That's why I didn't pay attention to that. What I paid attention to was they were in the women's locker room or dressing room or trailer, whatever it is, and Karen was talking about how she had cleaned the place up, and then when Tracy stormed off at the end, Karen called her ungrateful after all the hard work she had done cleaning the room. Apparently, Karen got some sponges and a mop and bucket and cleaned the place.
Yeah.
She swept, she dusted, she wiped everything down. She went to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I found notable about this.
So then after commercial, she met with the Knockouts, and the first thing she says is, Mickie, you're not getting another shot of the title. Which, by the way, Mickie didn't even argue. Hell of a babyface. So then Karen said, we're going to have 3 matches in the next few weeks. It's going to be Mickie versus Miss Tessmacher, Tara versus Madison, and Velvet versus Angelina. And the winners of the matches are going to face Winter at Bound for Glory in a 4-way. So immediately after saying Mickie was done with her title rematches, she's getting a chance at another shot right here.
Yes, that is true.
So they had the usual bitchy meeting. Madison was kissing up to Karen. Not much more to say about it than that.
Yeah, Madison is the only girl who's trying to get on Karen's good side. Even the other heels don't like Karen. Fortune was in the ring. They were all dressed up sharp, and they brought out Bobby Roode, who may have been the most casually dressed of all of them. Here, he the number 1 contender, and they took turns congratulating him, talking about how proud they were of him and how much they hoped he won the world title. And it was Daniel's turn, and he was constantly referring to his own victory over AJ. Talked about how, if it was Rob's greatest victory, just like my greatest victory was over AJ 2 weeks ago, blah, 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 blah. Kaz went, and he talked about how great Roode was and also made a marijuana joke. And finally, it was James Storm's turn, and he hesitated a bit. Didn't really have a lot to say, although he did drop in one, I wish it was me. Very subtle. And finally, he just said his catchphrase.
I didn't think it was subtle at all.
Yeah.
He just said, I wish it was me.
Yes. And he did his catchphrase, and that was that, except Kurt came out. He was smiling and happy and jolly, and he congratulated Roode, too, on the victory in the tournament. And he explained to him that all the other guys in the ring standing next to him, all his friends, they were jealous of his success. They wanted his spot. And he explained that since he was on Hogan and Bischoff's side now he can book matches. So he's like the 7th authority figure. So he had booked Roode in a series of one-on-one matches against the other members of Fortune leading up to the pay-per-view. And he told the other guys, if they lie down for Roode, they go to the bottom of the totem pole. But if they beat him, they go to the top. And then he said Kaz is going to wrestle him first on this show tonight.
And by the way, because apparently there was confusion, and God knows they could change this at the next set of tapings anyway, but my understanding was that Roode gets the title shot because he won the Bound for Glory tournament. If somebody beats him, they don't get his title shot. They're just next in line after the Kurt Angle Bobby Roode match.
That was the impression
so
I got.
Not quite as stupid.
Yeah.
Unless you have more to add here.
No. Only that I could see how someone could watch the same segment and get a different impression.
Sure.
Yes, they were vague.
So there you go. That's the deal. And hey, listen. At least this was an example of he who has the title has the power. Kurt Angle had the power to book matches. So I'm not going to complain at all.
That is true, but he outright said it had nothing to do with the title. It's because he was friends with Barrick and Hogan.
Well, that's true.
But you are correct in that it's the first time anyone with the title that supposedly wields the power, they exercise that power. Bischoff and Angle had a meeting. Did anything happen here?
No. Okay. Angle just talked about what he'd done, and Bischoff was happy.
Jibber jabber a bit. Velvet versus Angelina to see who else we get in the 4-way with Winter and them. So the gimmick is Angelina is Winter's friend, so Winter wants her in the match to, give her a fighting chance against, rather than face 3 opponents, she can have a partner facing 2. So she's trying to interfere constantly, and finally she grabs the belt, and Angelina holds Velvet, and the ref's watching all this, and Velvet dodges, and Angelina gets clocked with the belt, and Velvet hit a DDT and pinned her.
You know, I ranted about the people running in right in front of the referee and hitting the ring with weapons and it not being a disqualification unless they use them. And I made the example of, well, if I hit the ring with a giant axe, you're telling me it's totally all right in TNA to hit the ring with a giant, sharp axe. But if I actually chop someone in two, then it's a disqualification. It's not a DQ if I hit the ring with a gun, but if I pull the trigger, then that's a disqualification. If I hit the person, if I just shoot at them and miss, apparently that's all right. The match continues. So everybody's arguing, Brian, that's always how it's been. You have to use the weapon for it to be disqualification. If you just hit the ring but don't use the weapon, it's not a DQ. Never mind the fact that, if I'm having a match with somebody and a fucker runs in with an axe, it's a big distraction for me. The match should be thrown out. What if I lose as a result of that distraction? Even if he doesn't hit me, the match should be thrown out. But no. Everyone's like, Brian, you got to use the object. I mean, hello, it's been like this forever. Okay, well, Winter tried to hit Velvet with the belt, and she missed and hit Angelina. This was not a DQ. And don't tell me anything about the history of wrestling, because I've seen a million matches where somebody hit the wrong person and that person was DQ'd, and the big storyline was, oh my god, I lost the match because so-and-so fucked up. Not here! Winter hit Angelina in the head with the belt, right in the fucking head, right in front of the referee. He didn't care. He just dropped down and counted the pin. So anyway, fuck this place.
Well, that's true. Jeff Hardy was backstage. He approached AJ Styles, and AJ was having none of this bullshit. He explained that he had been with this company for 9 years. My soul died when he said this. Told Jeff he was selfish and buried him for screwing up the entire company. He almost killed the company, he said, and took food off of AJ's kid's table. It was actually a hell of a promo. This was a pissed-off man.
It sucked. I mean, the promo was fine, but, Jesus Christ. Jeff nearly killed the company by showing up in no condition to perform. How about Dixie, who is still employing this guy? How about Vince Russo, who, when they found out that Jeff Hardy was too fucked up to perform, he couldn't come up with a single better idea than, let's just send Jeff out anyway. In the main event of a pay-per-view. Jeff Hardy is not the one killing this company. I realize that's what they're saying in storyline, but it infuriated me.
Do you want AJ to come on here and yell at Dixie?
Well, no, but it infuriated me that this was. You see this in WWE all the time. It's like, okay, we need to shift the blame to somebody else. Let's talk about how people joke about Impact. So he said, when people joke about Impact, it's because of people like you, Jeff. And it's like, okay, if you're going to acknowledge that people joke about Impact, now it's on, motherfucker.
All right, that's
the
fair.
reason people joke about Impact has nothing to do with Jeff Hardy. Well, it does. But not because Jeff's fucked up. It's because he's fucked up and employed.
He's been gone for 3 months, and we've been joking about it. It's still been funny. Yeah. Not funny, it's the wrong word. It's been stupid. Yeah, so...
We're placing the blame on everything else. It's Dixie Carter and Vince Russo killing this company.
Yeah.
Period.
So Jeff was shunned. He walked away in shame. Hulk had a meeting with Flair. Wanted Flair to win. Said he had a plan B. Flair said, you don't need a plan B. You got me. And suddenly Sting just shows up. He's just there with his arms over their shoulders, goofing off, being wacky, telling jokes, having a great old time. This is a stupid way to build a main event. And he left. Crimson joined us for a live interview via satellite. Not making this up. He did all right.
I thought it was fine.
It was not bad. He congratulated Bobby Roode on winning the tournament that Crimson wasn't first placed in when he got hurt. And he promised that he would be back to get Joe and get his revenge, and said he'd be back in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And at this moment, I thought to myself, didn't Matt Morgan already get revenge for you? He beat Samoa Joe at the pay-per-view.
Little did you know.
Little did I know.
I thought this was a fine promo by Crimson.
It was fine. Samoa Joe wrestled Matt Morgan. A pay-per-view rematch. There was some awful editing in this.
There's one of the worst examples of editing I've ever seen. Joe went to put on a choke, and he had the arm completely wrapped around the man's neck, and they cut to another camera angle, and we had gone back in time a full second. So the arm was just starting to wrap around the neck again. That's the craziest thing I ever saw. I can only imagine what was edited out of this match.
So after that, I, having been distracted by this horrific edit, I then fell into the Impact trap of noticing every time they switch cameras. And I was laying down and still wanted to fall down. It was dizzying and painful. So eventually, after all this, Samoa Joe, the guy who had a minus 10-point losing streak of the tournament...
We must mention that Matt Morgan put on the worst armbar in the history of pro wrestling. And that's by professional wrestling armbar standards.
In 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Have you never watched a single MMA match? I mean, forget actually training in anything that would teach you an armbar. Have you ever even watched a match to see a real armbar? I don't even know what he was doing. He was doing like I don't even know, like a goofy half triangle, half armbar, where Joe's arm was directly straight up over his head like he was in class about to ask a question.
Yeah, okay, I didn't even know what we were talking about until right now.
Preposterous.
I didn't even see that as I thought it was a chokehold of some kind.
No, it's supposed to be like an arm bar.
Yeah, it was like he was up around his legs around Joe's head and shoulders, and the arm was also happened to be in there. So they're doing this match, and Samoa Joe, the guy who had the minus 10-point tournament performance, and then just dropped out of the whole thing because he sucked so bad, and then he got beat clean on the pay-per-view. Here, puts on a weird half figure four, half heel hook hold.
It was actually the old Hulk Hogan figure four where he put the top leg underneath the other leg, but they called it a heel hook.
Well, yeah, he had a heel hook on too,
I guess.
So he puts this hold on, and Matt Morgan taps out.
Yeah.
Thank God we watched the pay-per-view.
What a loser.
Thank God that pay-per-view was so important. We saw Matt Morgan get his big win, only to be erased here on a show that more people watch anyway. This is just a late slip FU to the people who bought the show.
Sure. They do that regularly.
Yeah. Really pissed me off this time. Kurt gave Kaz a pep talk. Talked about how he deserved everything he wanted. He wanted Kaz to hurt Bobby Roode, basically. Jeff Hardy met with Devon. Devon was friendlier than AJ, but he was still very, very intense, and he was not messing around. He talked about all the screwing up Jeff had done, how they've been up and down the road for 15 years and had some of the greatest matches ever. And Jeff had no more strikes. If he screwed up one more time, he was gone. But he let him know he had Jeff's back. It was a Devon promo. They're all good. We had Kaz versus Bobby Roode. It was okay. They were wrestling clean, and Roode kept getting the better of things, and so Kaz would get flustered. Finally, a shoving match broke out, and then it was just your standard pro wrestling match. They went back and forth, and finally Roode won with a crossface. Kaz was upset at first, but finally cooled down a bit, and he shook Roode's hand and congratulated him. It was fine.
Bobby Roode is a great wrestler. Yeah.
All right.
All right? You don't think Bobby Roode's a great wrestler?
I thought this match was okay. I've seen better Bobby Roode matches.
Well, he was with Kazarian.
He was.
I haven't seen a ton of awesome Kazarian matches. I thought this match was good.
So backstage, they continued to be contentious. It seemed like the exact same angle I just saw play out in the ring, just done backstage. They started fighting and then made up again.
Yeah, that's the angle.
All right. So, yes.
Kazarian apologized to Roode for getting too physical, and Roode said, brothers fight.
Yeah, but they did that in the ring.
I know, but they
then
wanted
they
to
came
make
back
sure.
And did it again.
Wanted to make sure we saw it and heard it.
So, yeah. So, yes, they're things are cool with him. Kaz wishes he had won. He didn't. He says, Bobby Roode is ready, and Roode said, you're damn right, I'm ready. And then they hugged again. Aries cut a promo saying he was what a champion is supposed to look like. Damn straight. And he said next week would be his first title defense. We had a Bully Ray and Jerry Lynn promo. They have a match coming up with RVD and Anderson. The only thing I got out of this was Jerry Lynn accused Rob Van Dam of smoking marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we
had an accusation.
Then we had our main event. Sting versus Ric Flair.
In 2011.
And it was obvious.
Who would have thought in 1988 that 23 years later, in 2011, they would be doing another singles match?
Yeah.
No one in their right mind thought this.
They would have thought, boy, that'd be horrible.
Their last match was in 2001, ironically on the final ever WCW television show, before they went out of business. What a shocker and an irony.
Actually, That stuns me because I would have assumed they would have wrestled in TNA at some point.
Nope.
That's how seriously I take both TNA's ability to build memorable matches and Ric Flair's retirement. All right, so they have this match here. They started off doing some chain wrestling, and folks, Ric Flair looked like your 60-year-old grandfather doing chain wrestling.
Yeah.
He was moving so slow.
He was very slow. He looked very old.
Yeah.
Like in his 80s.
Yeah.
He got ridiculously tired.
Uh-huh.
He can no longer do anything.
That's pretty close to true.
I mean, he still tried all of his spots. Luckily, he didn't try to do the flip in the corner.
There's a part where I actually thought he was going to try the flip.
But he did take his usual bump off the top. Uh-huh. He took a superplex and fucked up his arm. It was very obvious. And just, Sting looked like 35 and in his prime compared to Flair out there. It was, I can't even say it was sad. It was depressing. It's just depressing. And and then in the middle of this depressing match, Flair takes a superplex, fucks up his arm. Sting goes for the cover, and Immortal is supposed to break it up, but whoever was supposed to hit the ring first, I think Gunner, was too slow, so the ref just held up his count. So Gunner hits the ring. Bam! A brawl ensues. Now all of Immortal is in the ring. Hogan is coming down to the ring. There are bodies everywhere going nuts. And the referee is just standing there. Was this a no disqualification match that I'm unaware of?
I thought that too. It's the only thing that makes any kind of sense.
There's a wild brawl going on in the ring, and the ref is just watching it. And then Mr. Anderson runs down, and now the brawl is even more wild. And in the middle of it, Hogan hands Flair the brass knuckles. And, of course, even though there's a million men in the fucking ring at the goddamn same time, none of whom are in the match, Flair has to make sure the ref doesn't see him using the brass knuckles. Because that would be cheating.
Right.
That would be a disqualification. So, he hits Sting. Sting kicks out, made his comeback, Stinger splash. Flair was going to take the face first bump, but his arm on that side was fucked up, so he just kind of fell on his knees, which is even sadder. Flair put on the Scorpion, got the submission. Just totally depressing.
And this leads to, for the time being, we are supposed to believe Sting versus Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Another old man. One who's been told by doctors not to wrestle again.
Flair looks 80. That's no exaggeration. He looks older than Granny. Hogan looks at least 70.
Yeah.
And here these guys are, and Sting is 52. He looks at least in his 40s because he wears face paint, but still, he's 52. And here they are headlining on Impact in 2011.
Yes.
And we're supposed to be excited about Sting versus Hogan here as we near 2012. The end of the fucking world!
It's like when you were talking about how watching Flair wrestle was sad and depressing, and I can see why you might think that, but my reaction was, what did you expect?
I'll tell you what I expected. I expected it to be better than this. Listen, it was less than a year ago that we saw Flair versus Jay Lethal. This might have been a little over a year. But let's just say, it was not 2 years ago. A little over a year ago that we saw Ric Flair versus Jay Lethal, which, find that match on YouTube. That match was great.
I think you're right.
And there was also Ric Flair versus Mick Foley, and God knows Foley goddamn near killed himself. But that was a really good match, too. Those were Flair's last two matches. And I thought, it's Flair versus Sting. Flair can do this match in his sleep with his eyes closed. He can use all of his normal smoke and mirrors. But Flair got old. Like, he got ancient. Between the Mick Foley and Jay Lethal match and today, in the course of that year, he got ancient. And he could not do anything. He couldn't do nothing. Nothing. It was just depressing. As depressing as can be. Just sad. His last match, he should have retired after that Jay Lethal match, Mm-hmm. Should have retired after the Foley match.
Should have retired at about, 19...
This was I can't imagine him wrestling again. I'm sure he will.
Of course he will.
But it's only going to get worse from here. And this was terrible. You know, I don't know. Nobody ever really retires, but man, this was one match too many. And there's only going to be more, and it's going to be even more and more depressing. So, anyway, this sucked. Sad.
Impact, everybody.
Start the Impact review.
Sting came out in jeans and a Hulk Hogan
You
t-shirt.
jackass, that was part of the song.
Really?
Yes. I'm right across from you in the room.
And Andrew, I hear both of you in my headphones. I was doing what I was told. You can't be mad at me for this one. I was following directions.
Oh, my God. That was an all-time. That was the one time in history that we needed a webcam. Right there.
What happened? We just both started talking.
Both started talking?
Nothing. That's like I jumped up and did the Impact report.
I didn't mention anything about Impact Report. That was a song.
I realized this.
I was there with my mouth closed, and you heard the song and started reading the Impact.
So the point of the webcam review would just be to show your mouth not moving.
The visual comedy of this.
I see.
That in the room with you...
There's a big fucking monitor between us. I can't see you.
So start the Impact Report.
I don't want to now.
Too late.
Sting came out in blue jeans and a Hulk Hogan t-shirt.
Stink?
I may have said that. He called out Hogan. Hogan came out. This all killed like 4 minutes. So Hulk said that this match that Sting had won against Hulk Hogan, that they all agreed would be the stipulation to the Flair match, Hulk said, not happening. Just not going to happen now. Said he has not been medically cleared. Sting found this hysterical. He was literally rolling on the floor laughing his ass off. He had evidence the Hulk was physically competent to wrestle, and he showed this footage. It was Hulk Hogan hitting him with a chair.
And punching him.
He said this is proof that Hogan still has it. The fact that he can swing a chair from a standing position indicates he's ready for athletic competition.
And throw a punch.
So Hulk made some more excuses. Sting said, fine, let's do it tonight. Bischoff came out. Sting punched him. Sting acted wacky, and I had no idea what was going on, and it ended. This accomplished nothing.
Sting's street clothes consist of jeans, designer jeans, mind you.
They were very fancy jeans.
Tennis shoes, a t-shirt, and paint scrawled across his face.
Yeah. Karen the Giant met with some of the women backstage.
This was where this show fell off a cliff. I hated this segment. I hated this segment so much that I wanted to turn off the show. And actually, the show turned around immediately after this segment was over. But this segment was the absolute goddamn dirt worst of TNA. Karen the Giant is in there with Mickie and Brooke, Tessmacher. And she announced they're wrestling in the Bound for Glory Queens, whatever the fuck it's called.
Because every tournament has to have a name.
So, I'm a fast typer. When I took typing in junior high, I typed like 100 words a minute. I'm a pretty quick typer. I could not recap all of this. There was so much stuff that happened in this 1 minute promo. There's Karen, there's Mickie, there's Brooke, there's bitching. Oh, there's Kazarian.
Tracy was there.
There's Tracy.
Her boobs were there.
Oh my God. What happened, which I was unable to recap because too much happened for me to even keep up with, was apparently Karen told them to have this match, and Brooke acted all bitchy, and Mickie just walked off. And I don't even know what they were talking about, but Brooke has a new outfit or something. I think she told Brooke not to do... Oh, that's right. Her, quote, erotic striptease.
Erotic striptease
exact
behavior.
Words. Erotic striptease behavior is what she said.
No more of that.
So, Tracy is there with Karen, I guess because she's her assistant, and her tits are hanging out. And Karen says, why are you dressed like a whore? So, Kazarian just happens to be walking by. And, of course, he rushes to Tracy's aid because, you see, they're married again. 3 weeks after the fucking angle that involved Karen. This storyline is still fucking going on, and they think we've forgotten that 3 weeks ago, Tracy fucked Eric Bischoff 3 times to try to get a job, and he gave the job to Karen instead. But, alas, Kazarian and Tracy are still married. I hate this show.
Yeah, actually, you actually got everything in there, though, as far as I can tell. Karen last week told Tracy to cover her breasts, and so Tracy showed up this week in an outfit designed by Power Girl from DC Comics, where everything was covered except for a massive boob window. And Karen told her to cover them up, and Tracy said they look good. And
I hated this.
Kazarian arrived.
I hated this.
There was a lot going on.
Kazarian and Tracy are married again.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
And she was banging the boss trying to get a career advancement. I guess he's cool with this.
Apparently.
He's in California. They're weird down there.
That sucked.
I'm doing my best. Jeff Hardy was shown...
No, I'm talking about the show.
Oh. Well, yes. Jeff Hardy was shown walking around backstage. Mike Tenay told us we had to give him credit. No, we do not. So we had Brooke Tessmacher versus Mickie James. TNA's got this entrance set up where they got the, the lights are going off, and there's a great big video screen behind them and another video over on the side. One of these videos just needs to be a close-up of Brooke's ass constantly. Just, this is what her character is. She's a woman with a great ass. So, they're doing this match, and Tessmacher does like the stink face, and that pissed Mickie off, and she fired up and made a big comeback, and it was okay. And then Mickie tried to do a flapjack. And I don't know if Brooke knew this was coming, or if she was just terrified to take it, but this was the worst move on Impact in a long-ass time. And they did not edit it out.
Taped show.
They just left it in there. So she lifted Brooke up and sort of put her back down in a way that was not intended. And then she hit her DDT and won.
Match was fine. There was one botched spot.
There was one blown spot.
Mickie planted her with a DDT. Brooke is fine, except for that botched spot. I don't even know whose fault it was. Could have been both of their faults, but
sure. This
match was fine.
Mexican America was walking through the parking lot, being loud and obnoxious. They decided they wanted a new tattoo. Anarchia did. They plugged the name of a local tattoo parlor about 8 times, and they got into this truck, and it's a really cool-looking lowrider truck with flames on it. And then they start it, and it sounds, and I typed this in my notes, perhaps this is a poor choice of words, but it sounded like an old lawnmower. Jeff Hardy met with Al Snow.
So in the middle of this show, in the middle of this television show, he decided he needed to get a tattoo, and he was going elsewhere?
Yeah. They left.
Well, that makes sense.
And the camera crew went with them.
What a stupid show.
Jeff Hardy met with Al Snow. Long story short, Al gave him a pep talk, said he respected him, told him not to make the same mistake, advised him to start at the top and work his way down.
Al was very stern here.
Yes.
As he always is.
He's a very wise man.
Really?
That's what they say.
Because he puts together these matches.
That's his gimmick, is he's old and wise. We had that Sorenson guy whose name I didn't even bother write down. Is it Jesse?
Jesse
Sorenson versus Austin Aries. The football guy. They had a good match with a shit finish. Jesse's running wild, making his comeback, and suddenly Kid Kash comes down to distract him, and he steals Jesse's football.
He took his ball.
Jesse leaned through the ropes as if to say, "Hey, you ruffian, give me back my ball." So Kash shoved it in Jesse's chest. This angered Jesse, so he chucked it at Kid Kash's back. And Kash turned around, and they bickered for a while, and then Aries came up from behind him and kicked Jesse in the head and pinned him.
Yeah. This is the feud, by the way, for those of you that forget, where Kid Kash and Jesse Sorenson had a match which had a clean finish, and then Kash beat him up, and they shot the angle to set up the match that had already had a clean finish.
Right. And still going.
Impact, everybody. Match was good. Aries is great.
Ken Anderson and Rob Van Dam had a promo to hype up their match with Jerry Lynn and Bubba Ray tonight. They were very relaxed here. They may have been smoking. So they went to the tattoo parlor. Anarchia was in the chair. He announced that he wanted tequila for his post-tattoo party. He sent the girls to go get some. And then the tattoo artist was there. She said she had another appointment, so she was going to bring another artist into the room. At this point, Anarchia, his body is already covered in ink, turns to Hernandez and whispers, "I'm afraid of needles."
Mm-hmm.
So they had a prayer for safety. And as soon as this prayer was over, Ink came into the room and attacked them.
Yeah.
Were they feuding?
Well, I don't know.
I have no recollection of this.
I know that Jesse Neal announced that they were back, which indicates that something must have happened. It says something like it's been 3 months, we're back, or something like that. Presumably Mexican America put them out, but of course they didn't show any replays. Nobody explained anything to us. It's just they came back.
I have no idea what happened to Ink.
It's the usual TNA brawl where babyface attack the heels cut them off, beat on them, babyfaces make their own comeback. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Jesse
put Hernandez through a table, and then we had Jesse and Shannon double teaming Anarchia. They are babyfaces, mind you, double teaming Anarchia, who is a heel. And they've also got a new girl, Christina Von Eerie. My voice. God, I blew it out yelling at the first part of this show.
It's not like you've done 4 shows today.
My God. So, Christina Von Eerie, who is the real-life girlfriend of Jesse Neal, she is now in this group. So apparently they're going to be doing a bunch of mixed tags and that sort of thing. And it would be nice if any of this was explained to me, but they don't bother.
I had no idea.
We're supposed to remember the epic battles that Mexican America and Shannon Moore and Jesse Neal had 4 months ago.
It didn't occur to me. There was a girl who tried to intervene, and she ended up hitting a back elbow on Anarchia, which is a move you could teach any competent human being in 5 minutes. So, yeah, they brawled, and then apparently they threw Anarchia into the chair, and they teased giving him a tattoo, and Jesse said we couldn't see it, and he put the camera down.
They tattooed his cock, apparently.
My favorite part of this, actually, was Ink attacks, and Jesse Neal is brawling with Hernandez, and they brawl, and he put his head in a freezer, and he put him through a table. Then after all this, the camera...
He put his head in a freezer, you say?
That's what happened. He opened the freezer, and he put Hernandez's head in there.
Because it's cold.
I guess, yeah. Give him brain freeze. And so he does all this big spot with a table, and this is like 2 minutes in. And then the camera cuts to the tattoo parlor lobby. I'm going to say that again. The camera cuts to the tattoo parlor lobby. They had multiple cameras there, apparently.
Yeah.
In this tattoo session.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Yeah, it was not a terrible angle. It was just way too much going on, and it went too long. So after all this, after this segment where a team who has been gone for Christ knows how long, for Christ knows what reason, comes back and attack their opponents in public, in broad daylight, on film, and then apparently tattoo them in a very painful area against his will, Mike Tenay then says, Ink returns to Impact Wrestling.
He didn't even pretend that he wasn't reading shitty lines off a script.
Yeah. He sounded so bored.
Well, why wouldn't you be? He's got a stack of papers 6 inches high, and he's got to read all this shit to try and make sense of it to the viewer at home. And it always fails. Not his fault.
Jeff Hardy met with Matt Morgan. Morgan gave him the same speech everyone else has said. I'm pissed off at you. I'm going to give you a second chance. Don't fuck up again. So then
you're missing a very important point of him talking about how many days he had been sober from his pain pill addiction.
Morgan?
Yes. Why is everyone on drugs in this company?
Well, because drugs are fun. That's the best answer I have for you.
These this Impact sure makes these wrestlers look like losers. I need to go get a drink.
Jeff Hardy met with Kurt Angle. Angle did not give him the same speech everyone else had said. He said he didn't want Hardy there. Nobody wanted Hardy there. Told him to leave. Jeff Hardy said, "Who are you to judge me?" I found this question absurd. Kurt found this question absurd. And the more I thought about it, I realized, maybe Kurt's not the best guy to be judging Angle, or to be judging Jeff Hardy here for his record of narcotic abuse and substance problems. So Jeff said, I think the real reason you don't want me here is because I'm your biggest threat. Kurt thought this was laughable, that Jeff would be his threat. He said, nobody's a threat to me, and he stormed off. Came down to the ring. He called out Bobby Roode. He said Bobby Roode would be wrestling Chris Daniels tonight, suggested that Daniels would cheat. Roode came out and basically said, whatever happens between now and the pay-per-view, I'm going to win your belt. The crowd chanted, next world champ. Kurt said he knew someone who would stand in Roode's way, maybe your best friend, and out came James Storm. And Storm came out and he suggested that Immortal had bought him off, but he said he made his own rules, and he was here to get into it with Kurt. And he turned around and he challenged Kurt to a match tonight, and Kurt said this challenge was an insult to itself, but Storm told him to get his gear, and I'll see you later, and I guess the match was on.
And the ever important line of telling Kurt to get on his knees and stroke his beer bottle.
That was in there, too.
That's what he said. He said, why don't you get down on your knees and stroke my beer bottle? Unacceptable.
Bully Ray and Jerry Lynn versus Mr. Anderson in a handicap match.
This was infuriating.
Now, you'll recall about maybe 10 minutes earlier in this very review, I told you that we had a Mr. Anderson and Rob Van Dam promo where they were talking about a tag match. At some point between that promo and this match, Rob Van Dam vanished.
Disappeared.
Tenay mentioned something about how he had been taken out and suspected that Jerry Lynn was to blame. I
cannot possibly believe that somehow we missed a segment.
See,
I'm going to look at the Impact report on our site and see if it's mentioned.
I'm going to bet. This sounds like something they would do. There was probably a 10-second bit with Rob Van Dam in the crowd and someone shouting, Rob, Rob, and that's it. And that's all we got to see because we had to see Inc. fighting Mexican America for 5 minutes in a tattoo parlor. And so they cut out the Rob Van Dam being taken out part. I'm betting it showed, but it was less than 10 seconds.
Let's see here. Some stagehands were backstage and stumbled on Van Dam lying unconscious in a group of chairs. He must have saw the remake of Conan the Barbarian. This was between Hardy finding Morgan and Hardy finding Angle. Apparently we missed this, the death of Rob Van Dam.
Yeah. I don't care, by the way. I don't feel bad. So they had a handicap match. It was all right. The heels were double teaming him and running wild, and he made his big comeback. And he had he hit the mic check on Bully Ray, but Jerry Lynn broke up the pin. Then he hit the senton on Bully Ray. Lynn went to break up the pin again, but he hit a big splash on Ray. Anderson covered him. Ray kicked out of that, so there was too much going on. And then Anderson picks up Bully Ray for a fireman's carry, and Jerry drop kicks him in the knee, and he collapses with Bubba on top of him. And I thought, well, there's your finish right there. You have the babyface fighting, finally being overwhelmed. Now he's going to be pinned by his hated rival, who is nothing but literally be dead weight on the man's shoulders as his partner got the win. That's a great finish to build to this match. Then Bully Ray grabbed a chain. And Jerry Lynn distracted the ref, and Bully Ray hit him with a chain and pinned him. It's still better than Anderson pinning him.
I actually thought this was fine. In fact, I cannot for the life of me believe that any of their normal agents actually put this match together. They did a handicap match, and I hate watching Mr. Anderson on TV. He is go-away heat for me. But they booked this match in such a fashion that Anderson actually looked like a legitimate star before he lost. He made his comeback. He hit one move after another. God, my voice. One move after another, over and over. They kept foiling him. They kept foiling, blah, blah, blah. Finally, they hit him with the chain and pin him. I cannot even believe I said that, but he did in fact look like a legitimate star before they finally beat him here. So, 2 thumbs up to ever put this match together. I'll bet you anything it was Jerry Lynn and Bully Ray, in which case they should be booking all the matches on this show.
Well, duh. But yes, that's a safe bet. So, the match was supposed to be Bobby Roode versus Chris Daniels. Daniels came out in street clothes, announced he was not going to wrestle Bobby Roode tonight, said he had nothing left to prove because he had already beaten AJ. So AJ Styles came down. Daniels said he had already proved he was the better man. He had nothing else to prove to AJ. AJ told him to, and I quote, keep living in that wrestling bubble.
Somebody was pissed off today.
That's what he said. He suggested another match. Daniels said, no, I already beat you. He also called him a bitch. So AJ decked him. They had a very, very, very long brawl. They brawled over into there's apparently the direct insurance company that sponsors them. Apparently they set up an office in the Impact Zone.
Sure, in case you decide in the middle of a wrestling show that you need insurance.
I need some car insurance right now. So they brawled into this office. They went into some desks and stuff. And they brawled all the way back to the ring. Kaz ran down to separate them. He tried to get them to listen to Reason for a while. Neither one of them was having it. And finally, Daniels punted AJ in the balls and left. Whatever happened to Bobby Roode?
I feel bad for Kazarian. His best friends are fighting and his wife's fucking everybody. I mean, what could be worse for this guy? This was a great angle.
They'll find something for him.
They just did a great job arguing back and forth, and Daniels kept rubbing it in, and AJ is, trying to just say, listen, people lose. I lost. It's not the first time, it won't be the last time. You need to get over this. And Daniels just kept going and going and going, and finally AJ snapped after Daniels said, what did he say? He had a great line in there. It was the first time ever on Impact that they actually used the word bitch in a proper manner. It was AJ slapping him after Daniels threw in a one more time about how I've beaten you, and Daniels said, wow, I didn't know you were a sore loser and a bitch. And of course, that's when the fight broke out and ended with the kick to the balls, and this was a great angle. I give it 2 thumbs up.
Angle cut a promo backstage. He announced that Scott Steiner was his trainer and had been training him, in fact, for 6 weeks.
Wow, that's new.
Yes. You would think they would have announced this 6 weeks ago. But it's Kurt Angle and Scott Steiner cutting wacky promos, and I'm fine with this.
Steiner was awesome, as he always is.
As he always is when he's screaming at people, yes.
He explained that Kurt was going to kick Storm's ass tonight, and Angle was nearly laughing.
Yeah. So we had Kaz and Daniels were still shouting at each other. Somewhere in here, Kaz screamed, "This isn't pro wrestling bullshit."
That's what he said.
Because you see, everything in the show is fake, except this thing here, which we're telling you is not fake.
But this is pro wrestling bullshit, by the way.
That's the funny part.
I was totally into all of this until finally there was a line here when I think he was... First he was talking, trying to calm down Daniels, and he was trying to calm down AJ in a different room.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Everything was going along fine. I thought this angle was great. I was all into this. I was all excited. It was all good. And then Kaz starts bringing up some bullshit. I don't know what he was talking about. Presumably it was something about Chris Daniels' wife. He mentioned a name.
It was Lisa.
Talked about the problems they've been going through for the past few years, and right there, right there, they lost me.
Yes.
It was like, what in the fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck is Lisa? What the fuck does this have to do with anything? Why are you bringing this up now? This is the thing that I hate. Besides the fact that nothing makes any sense, the thing I hate most about this Vince Russo bullshit booking is, okay, let's just throw something in there. Let's just add a fact, Not something that you've ever seen on television. We've never seen Lisa. We haven't known anything about Lisa and Chris Daniels' problem for the past 3 years. They just now made it up, and they threw it in here to try to make us care. It doesn't work like that. God damn, this pissed me off. I was so into this until they started bulling up this make-believe, lazy booking bullshit. I just hated it. He didn't even explain it.
No.
It's not like he explained what the problems actually were for the last 3 years.
Or who the fuck Lisa is.
He just threw out this name and he said, the problems they've been having. And I thought, you know what? I don't. I don't know who Lisa is.
We don't have any fucking clue.
I don't know what problems they've been having.
It could be his wife. It could be his sister. It could be his neighbor.
His concubine.
His...
Fuck this.
Agent?
This sucked.
It was stupid.
Right here, it went off the cliff for me.
We had a main event. Kurt Angle versus James Storm. Finish aside, we basically got a paper...
Actually, you missed an important segment. Bischoff is on the phone trying to figure out how to get Hogan out of the match with Sting. And Hogan says, calm down, I have a plan. I'm going to drop a bombshell next week, and the world of wrestling will change forever.
Right. I don't pay attention to anything they say anymore. That's why I missed this. How many bombshells have they dropped?
I don't know, but this is an important one. Let's pay attention to what they say from this point forward.
Fine.
It is the main event for Bound for Glory they've been working on for 2 years. It's a little bigger than Mickie James and whatever the other girl is.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but we'll move on. Kurt Angle versus James Storm. Finish aside, we got a pay-per-view quality match here on free TV, so I can't complain about that at all. Angle's awesome. Storm's awesome. They had an awesome match. Don't know what else you want me to say. And then finally, Gunner ran out. Drops a star right there, just having Gunner involved. He distracted Storm. Angle hit the angle slam. It was not the finish. Then the ref got super kicked. Then Kurt got super kicked and there was no ref. Then Gunner attacked Storm. And then Bobby Roode ran down and attacked Gunner. And then he held up the world title, and Kurt stared at him, and his music played, and the show ended.
Yeah.
What?
All I can figure is that they didn't want to do another bullshit DQ or no contest finish in the main event, and so they just didn't have a finish.
That's much worse.
These guys had this great match. It was an awesome match. Kurt Angle is going into Bound for Glory as the champion. He's going to be facing Robert Roode. It's O-fucking-K to beat James Storm in a great match.
Yes.
But could they have a great match and Kurt Angle just beat James Storm clean? Of course not. You got to do some bullshit. You got to do a ref bump. You got to do some visual pins. You got to have a guy run in.
Yes.
And you know, listen. It's okay to do a disqualification. It really is okay. You can either have Kurt Angle pin James Storm, or James Storm beats Kurt Angle via disqualification. You know? But no, they didn't do anything. For all I know, the match is still going on. Maybe if James Storm finds Kurt Angle, like, in the next, 6 days, he can roll him up and a ref can run in and count the pin, and he's the new champion. Because the bell didn't ring. There was no finish. They didn't even ring the bell to throw out the match.
No.
They just all of a sudden played Bobby Roode's music.
And the show ended.
It's just, how many times have I said this in the last 9-10 years? No matter how good a show might be, or how good a match might be, or how much good wrestling there might be at a show, it's still Impact. Vince Russo is still writing this show, and it's still shit. Mm-hmm. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off.
I'm numb to it now.
I still get pissed off.
I'm pleasantly surprised when something right happens.
Yeah, and something right happened here until the end when they had to fuck it up. How do you fuck this up? Besides complete incompetence.
It's what they do.
Why can't Kurt Angle beat James Storm a couple weeks before he defends a title in the biggest show of their year? Why can't he beat James Storm? People lose every fucking week.
Because they're idiots. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm sure they've got some great storyline here with James Storm. And James Storm, I'm pretty sure, obviously he loses to Bobby Roode in their thing that Kurt Angle books. They didn't want him to lose twice. I don't even know why I try and figure out what they're thinking. They're not thinking. They're just complete idiots.
No, I think they are. I just think they're stupid.
No, they're complete idiots. They don't even think. Their brains already don't even have the capacity to actually think. I don't even think they think of bad ideas. They can't. Their brains they can't think. They have defective brains. They're dumb people. I hated this.
This is one of the better impacts of the year, everybody.
It was.
It's just definitely above average.
It would have been a great show if this stupid bullshit that they can't help but do wasn't in there. Like, you actually had a finish for your main event, even if it was a fucking DQ, even if it was Kurt Angle pinning the guy, at least you'd have a finish. You know?
By the way, one more note here. This is relevant to Impact, but not relevant to this show at all. Like 6 weeks ago, they had a bit where Jeff Jarrett came out and did an angle with Hector Guerrero.
Nowhere.
What the fuck ever happened?
Nothing.
There was 0 segments after that.
I don't even know where Jeff Jarrett's been. He's supposed to be the champion of Mexico. Where the fuck is he?
I don't know.
Karen's on the show all over the place. Where's Jeff?
I don't know.
You do a million of these. This show. Everyone go listen to the Jim Cornette show. And he talks about Ring of Honor this weekend, which debuts on Sinclair. If you have Sinclair, stop watching Impact and go watch that show.
If you don't have Sinclair, stop watching Impact.
You will
watch
never be
else.
pissed off again. There's better wrestling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not going to get Sting. Okay? You're not going to get Hulk Hogan.
You will not get senior citizens hurting themselves trying to do a young man sport.
The two oldest people that are signed by Ring of Honor right now are Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, neither of which is 40.
Yeah.
So go watch that show. And as Jim Cornette said, stop watching this horse shit. It sucks. It sucks and it's horse shit.
Yeah.
Go listen to his show. Find out what's wrong with wrestling today. And I shouldn't even say wrestling. What's wrong with... I didn't even tell you what's wrong with fucking TNA.
Impact opened with a Sting coming down to the ring.
Stink?
Sting.
It's never not funny.
He called out Bobby Roode. Every Impact has to start the same way. One person must come out to the ring, and then they must call out a second person. So Sting then cut this awesome promo about how great Bobby Roode was, how he's the man who can beat Kurt Angle and win the world championship, And he did more in about 15 seconds here to put Bobby Roode over than they have done in the past 3 months. This promo was better than that whole stupid, wacky tournament he won. So, Roode promised to be the next world champion. This made Sting throw an absolute party. Roode wanted Sting to make a promise to take care of Hulk Hogan. He said, you take care of Hogan, I'll take care of Angle. AJ came out. He told Roode to make the most of his opportunities. He pointed out that he was a former world champion, and since losing the title, he had never had a rematch. So Roode needed to make the most of this shot. This segment was so money. It made Roode come off like a giant star, and AJ is right there to say, this is it, dude. This is your one shot. This is important. And finally, Kurt came out, and he said, your former boss, in reference to Dixie, will never get control of this company again. And then he promised AJ, who was wrestling Bobby Roode tonight, he promised AJ that if he won, he would give AJ a title shot. And that was that.
It's a pretty damn good segment.
It's ruled.
Not going to lie.
Of course, it's Impact, so we had to have an unannounced with no build 5-way ladder match. When I say unannounced with no build, I mean this match was going on. There were men in the ring doing stuff, and then the announcers casually mentioned, by the way, folks, this is a ladder match. That was
for a title shot.
This is the first I'd heard of that. It was Kid Kash versus Zima Ion versus Alex Shelley versus the football guy versus Bryan Kendrick. Kendrick is an idiot. He got yanked off the ladder, fell onto his belly, and then he got thrown onto the floor and chose to not break his fall on the mats or land on his feet, or break his fall on the apron or land on his feet. No, he just went splat onto the mats outside. They did a bunch of stuff. Eventually, everyone got in the ring, and Bryan Kendrick won what the announcers called a race to get the contract.
This started out as every TNA TV ladder match. A lot of stuff going on. I just figured it was going to be short and lame. And they actually gave it a decent amount of time. I wouldn't say it was 6 minutes, maybe 5.
Sure.
Maybe even 4.5 or 4. But it was longer than 3. It was long enough that people really started to get into it, and it was long enough that it came off as way better than your average goofy TNA ladder match. So I will give this 1 thumb up. I will not give it 2 thumbs up, because why are you doing a ladder match for free on TV with no build to set up a singles one-on-one match with no steps?
Yes.
That's dumb, everyone.
The Jarretts met with the Kazarians in the ring.
You know, one more thing. Some people are going to say, well, you do that because there's some high-flying action on TV. This was a 5-way X Division match. There's going to be high-flying with or without a ladder. All you're doing is adding a stip for the sake of adding a stip, which means later when you do add a stip, no one gives a shit. So this was only 1 thumbs up, not 2.
Jeff and Karen Jarrett met with Frankie Kazarian and his wife, Tracy.
His wife, everyone.
Yep. Jeff talked about how Kaz was an indie geek before Jeff gave him a real job. And then he talked about how Kazarian tried to leave this company over and over again, but had nothing better to do. That's the gist of this.
Yeah, he said you left, you went up north, you thought the grass was greener.
To the other company, he said.
And so you came back here.
Yeah.
Who wrote this? This segment was a stupid segment.
Yes.
This was a bullshit segment.
This made them look... Yes.
It made the company look stupid. It made Kazarian look stupid.
Yep.
It made Tracy look stupid. These people are the baby faces, by the way.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, Jeff Jarrett's being a mean heel. No, he pointed out facts.
Yes.
He pointed out facts about how shitty TNA is and how Kazarian can't make it anywhere except this company.
Correct.
And the only reason he's here is because he begged to be there and Jarrett relented.
Yeah.
This was dumb.
Yes. So he vowed to make their lives miserable. He called Tracy a whore. A fight broke out. So you've got Jarrett and Kazarian being held back by security, and Karen and Tracy are screaming at each other.
I mentioned this last week. I'll say it again. He called her a 10-cent whore, and this resulted in a brawl breaking out. And I thought, we might have some sympathy for Kazarian and his wife, because you're supposed to have sympathy for the baby faces.
You would think.
Might have sympathy for Kazarian and his wife. Were it not for the fact that 3 weeks ago, she fucked Eric Bischoff 3 times to try and get a job, and she didn't get the job. Jarrett's right. She is, in storyline, a 10-cent whore.
Yeah. So, Gunner hits the ring. Security does not hold him back. He attacks Kazarian, and Mike Tenay says, "There's Gunner." And he pauses, and then he says, "It's Immortal's Gunner."
Yes.
perhaps there was a second Gunner running around who we might confuse this man with. So he hit his finisher on Kaz, and that was that.
Yeah, he hit the ring. There's a million security guys in there, and nobody stops him. They parted like the Red Sea so he could beat up Kazarian.
Yeah.
This segment sucked a cock.
It did. Much like Tracy, in fact. Jesse Neal versus Hernandez, I think. Ink was coming down to the ring, and they got jumped by Mexican America, who beat them up 2-on-2, so any fair fight, they did jump them from behind. And they beat them up for a minute and threw him in the ring, and Hernandez hit his top rope splash. If you've not seen Hernandez's top rope splash, he dives through the air in a crucifix pose. It looks awesome. And then the Mexican women, in revenge for Anarquia being tattooed, allegedly on his penis, the women spray-painted Jesse Neal and Shannon Moore.
I liked how Taz said, essentially, well, they did tattoo his cock last week, so they probably deserved this. Way to go getting over these baby faces.
He can only point out logic. Bubba Ray talked about Hulk Hogan's announcement.
See, this is why I say this may not be the best TNA show of all time. We can't skip over the idiocy.
I don't remember the other shows you talked about. I literally don't remember them, so there you go. Bubba Ray said he knew Hulk Hogan's announcement, but he wasn't going to tell us. Storm cut a promo backstage, talked about how he was happy for Roode, and a part of him would be in the ring with him, fighting for the title, and Beer Money would live forever. This is good. Flair was screaming at Hulk Hogan, trying to talk him out of something, saying, "You cannot do this." Hulk said his mind was made up. We got a Madison Rayne Tara highlight video showcasing the history of their feud. It was 1 year ago, September of 2010, when Tara came back. And I think this is the first time they actually showed this video of how she theoretically lost her job and Madison brought her back. They had talked about it, but they never just showed a damn video like this. And it was to build to a match here on this show, which was itself just a qualifier for another match. Mm-hmm. I don't understand this company anymore. Well, anymore. I don't understand this company, period. So they had this match. This match was lame. Madison versus Tara. Madison basically, whenever she had a spare second, would go over and flirt with Earl Hebner and massage his face and pinch his cheek or whatever. Earl didn't know what to make of any of this. And apparently she was cheating the entire time, and the ref was letting her get away with it, was the storyline. And then,
well, I think the storyline was that the ref was letting her get away with things, but we weren't supposed to know if he was doing it on purpose or if he was incompetent. Yes. So
this goes on. It was probably like 3 minutes, but she did the same shtick over and over and over and over again ad nauseum to the point where it seemed much longer. And then finally, Earl just turned his back to the action.
I think this was supposed to be comedy, but it wasn't funny.
No.
It just sucked.
It just sucked. And so after all that, then Madison wins with her feet on the ropes. So she's in the 4-way title match of the pay-per-view. I'm sure you're all thrilled to know that.
Best Impact of the year still, everybody.
Yes, it is. Daniels got a promo backstage. He was leaving. He said he was not wrestling, and so he was leaving the building. It sucks you have to go to the building, fly to Orlando, and go to the building to find out whether or not you are wrestling. So, as he's walking out, the camera guy says he may have a match with AJ Styles at the pay-per-view. He laughed this off, said AJ must have heat with the office. After all, I beat him in our last match, and I left him late last time. He better hope he doesn't have a match with me, and he cackled and walked away. Crimson called out Joe. Joe came out, said Crimson was lucky that basically Joe went easy on him. Said if you weren't here, who would be my bitch? And so Crimson...
That was actually just an awesomely stupid TNA line. He essentially said, this is what he said. If you weren't here, Crimson, there would be nobody in TNA to be my bitch. Because you see, Joe sucks so bad that he can't beat anyone up except Crimson.
Yes.
What a stupid line.
Yes. So Crimson charges. He hit an enormous spear on the ramp. They had a pretty good brawl, really. Joe cut him off and kicked him in the bad leg. Kicked the leg out of his leg. He put him in the heel hook. outruns Matt Morgan to save. Joe bailed, and Matt and Crimson are now friends. So you've got Joe, the guy who had minus 10 points in the tournament, and I believe he lost to Morgan at the pay-per-view. Then last week, as I recall, he beat Matt Morgan in a match. So Matt Morgan is as bad as the guy who had minus 10 points in the tournament.
Worse.
Yeah. Well, they have 1-1. And then Joe came out here, and he destroyed Crimson and left him laying, and Crimson needed another giant to come save him. What a clown troupe.
I think that Crimson is currently a better worker than Matt Morgan.
Oh, I'm almost certain. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm almost positive. Better promo, too. AJ did a quick promo backstage. He wanted to make sure Bobby was ready. He was going to give it 100% because if Bobby Roode can beat me, then he can beat Kurt Angle. Pope wrestled Mr. Anderson.
The more you read, the more I'm
going back
wondering what in God's name we were talking about earlier.
It's again, these are the standards.
You know what it is? It goes back to what we talked about a million times with WCW. If you have a bad show, but the last hour is great on a 3-hour pay-per-view, you remember it as a great pay-per-view. Even if the main event is out of this world and the undercard all sucks, you remember it as a great pay-per-view. Whereas if the undercard is awesome and the main event is Hulk Hogan versus Roddy Piper in a cage match and it's god-awful, you get out of there going, man, that show sucked. It's very much the same way with Impact. The last half hour or so of this show was awesome. And so the show's over and you're like, God damn, that was the best Impact I've seen all year. Then you start over to the beginning and you go over these segments, it's like, wow, there was some horrible stuff on this here show. But the last half hour was, in fact, great.
So, yes, Pope did wrestle Mr. Anderson. I guess they're both faces now. I honestly don't know.
I know that Anderson's given up. He just doesn't care. He's fat. He's slow. He's going through the motions.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
So they're brawling on the floor. Just brawling on the floor, by the way. No weapons involved. Nothing more dastardly than in any other Impact match ever. Anderson rears back to throw a punch, and Devon's kids block it. And Anderson's confused, and the ref jumps in the way and says, I'll handle this, you get in the ring. So Anderson rolls in the ring, and he yells at the kids, and Pope yells at the kids, and Devon comes out and he yells at the kids. While all this is going on, Bully Ray comes through the crowd. He hits Mr. Anderson with a stick. And I didn't write down how it ended. Did Pope pin him?
Pope pinned him.
Pope pinned him after that. So there you go. We got a quick clip of Roode saying he wanted AJ at his best to prove that he could be ready to take on Angle. Then we were outside the building, actually, not even backstage. Outside, Devon was yelling at everyone. He was yelling at his sons. He was yelling at Pope. And he was saying, he called all the shots, you do what I say. He ordered the children to leave, and he walked away. And as usual, he came off like a complete asshole here.
He came off like a lunatic, a crazy man.
That too.
I liked when he yelled at Pope and he said, this is all your fault. And I thought Pope was on the ground helpless when the sons tried to help. How in God's name was this Pope's fault? I don't know. This is another example here of this is why nobody cares about any of these characters. Uh-huh. This is why the show does 7,000 buys. Because you sign matches and nobody cares about any of the matches because nobody cares about any of the characters. Because the characters are just crazy people. You know? It's like, I don't know if JJ or if Jerry Jarrett said this on the air or off the air today, but he made the comment about Russo's Shades of Grey. He's not a fan of Vince Russo. And he said, in real life, there's no such thing as a tweener. He says, there are great people that have some bad qualities. And there are bad people that have some good qualities. But there are not people who are half good and half bad. You're either a largely good person who has some problems here and there, or you're a crazy psychopath that the hell was the guy that dresses the clown? Gacy?
John Wayne Gacy?
John Wayne Gacy. You know, he was a horrible, horrible man. But when he actually did children's birthday parties and dressed up as a clown, he didn't kill the kids. He was a nice clown. You know? And I'm not saying he was a great guy or anything like that. He was a horrible person.
Where are you going with this?
Well, the point I'm trying to make is his whole point was, you know, there aren't people that are just half and half.
I see.
You know, it's preposterous. And this whole thing in TNA, I mean, what in God's name? I'm not saying that Devon is John Wayne Gacy. I don't even know. Obviously,
you have gone off the rails.
It's late.
Let's be honest.
It's late. But the point is, Devon he's a crazy man, you know?
And
he's a crazy, irrational... He's supposed to be a babyface, but he acts like a complete asshole, a complete heel. It's not even like there's a good reason for it.
No.
You know, it's not like his son's... It's not like, you know, Pope offered his sons drugs, and they went and snorted some coke, and Devon found him and flipped out. No, someone was going to do damage, and they got caught up in the action and grabbed his arm, and he fucking flipped out like they'd shot a firearm into it's just ridiculous.
It goes back to what you said about being, when you say all these people are crazy. The last time we saw Pope and Devon, they were chums. They had worked out whatever differences separated them and agreed to work together.
Pals.
And then on this next show, for no reason, unprovoked, Devon hates him again. That's unrealistic, it's irrational, and it's impossible to relate to.
Yes.
There we go. We had a fantastic Bobby Roode highlight video.
This was where the show turned around.
Showed him training up in Canada. Showed him coming home to his lovely wife and two beautiful young boys. Talked about how important his family was to him and how he had to sacrifice and be on the road all the time. And they showed him watching tapes intently. And we say many, many times on this show, on Raw, no one can just watch TV and look like they're watching TV. Bobby Roode did a phenomenal job of watching TV. He was studying Kurt Angle's matches, making mental notes of everything. Any weakness he could find in this man's game, he was cataloging. And he talked about how he wanted Kurt Angle to remember what he was like the first time he wrestled for his first world title, and how confident he was, and how sure he was of victory, because that's how he feels right now. He said, Kurt's the best wrestler to ever live, but now it's my time. This is awesome.
This was one of the best things that they ever produced, ever, in 10 years.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. 2 thumbs up.
Oh, at least. And then it led to Bobby Roode versus AJ Styles.
God damn, this match was great.
A hell of a pro wrestling battle.
Not only that, but last week we had Kurt Angle and James Storm, and I was so pissed off at the end of the show because they had this great match, and then they couldn't even come up with a finish.
Yeah.
You know, Kurt Angle couldn't pin James Storm, or...
No one could even get DQ'd.
No one could even get... I mean, I was pissed off they couldn't even ring the bell.
Yeah.
I didn't even care what your goddamn finish is, just ring the bell. They couldn't even do that. This one, they had a great match. They had some awesome near falls. The crowd was going nuts. AJ finally goes for a Pele. He misses for what he claims is the first time ever. He lands on his ass, or on his face, and he's in position for Roode to just leap in, put him in the crossface, and tap him out. This was awesome.
Just tremendous. So, they hugged in the ring, went to commercial. When they came back, they were doing a promo backstage. They were both still, sweaty and tired and exhausted. But AJ was saying, hey, I'm as great as I am, no one's ever dodged my Pele kick before. You are the first one. You are ready. This is your time. And this is all awesome. And by the end, I was like, man, I can't wait to see Bobby Roode wrestle for the world title.
It's great.
I thought that to myself.
Yeah, one thing about TNA that they are doing much better than WWE. And you can't really brag about this, but the thing they're doing better than WWE is WWE's, they've built up mini matches where the gimmick is that the champion and the challenger each lose a bunch of matches leading up to the big match. One guy costs the other guy a match, then that guy costs... It's just, the champion loses, the challenger loses, and then essentially you've got 2 losers battling in the main... They do this all the fucking time.
Yes, they do.
TNA has got their biggest show of the year coming up, and the way they're doing it is the champion keeps beating folks, and the challenger keeps beating everyone as well. So, in fact, you have 2 winners going into the main event.
How novel.
To determine which is the better man.
You're correct.
They have figured this out.
They've got one thing right.
The fact that TNA has figured this out, that really, it becomes a head scratcher that WWE does it poorly.
So we had the main event. Was not, in fact, Bobby Roode and AJ Styles having a hell of a wrestling match. It was Hulk Hogan coming out to announce his fake retirement.
I actually like this. I'm going to tell you why.
All right.
When we first got the spoilers that Hogan comes out and announces his retirement, and next week in Huntsville he's going to have his celebration, and then we're never going to see him in TNA again. A lot of controversy, because TNA has been doing a lot of things right leading up to Bound for Glory, particularly in the top two matches. Hogan, Sting, largely because Sting is so great, and of course Angle and Bobby Roode. They've been doing a lot of things right. So it was baffling that just a couple of weeks before the show, they shoot an angle where it appears the match isn't going to take place. On paper, that sounds absolutely insane, absolutely idiotic. Watching it on TV, they did not even pretend. I don't know if this was TNA's decision or just Hogan himself. They didn't pretend for a moment that this was a real retirement announcement. I mean, from start to finish, it was complete bullshit. And Sting was watching backstage, and he knew it was complete bullshit.
Sting, go ahead.
Hogan was, there was a moment where Hogan got emotional, but it wasn't about his retirement. He got emotional for real because he talked about the true fact that when he hit rock bottom with his marriage and legal troubles and losing all his money, his fans were still there for him through it all. And that's true. And that made him cry. But when he's actually talking about his career, and he's encapsulating a 30-year career in like 25 seconds, and talking about how this is the end, I mean, not the dumbest fan would have watched that and gone, oh my God,
yeah,
the Hulkster's retiring. I gotta call my friends.
Very casual and comfortable about the whole thing.
It was very, very clearly just an angle to put further heat on the match, and you know that Sting is going to expose him next week.
If there was one person watching this who did not realize that Hulk Hogan was playing a charlatan here and trying to pull a scam, Sting was right there to look into the camera 2 or 3 times during the promo and tell us he is lying.
Sure.
This man in the ring is lying right now. Yeah. And I will prove it next week.
Yes.
So, yes, I had that going for it. I did like he talked about, in one sentence, I believe, he went from getting into the ring for the first time and Hiro Matsuda broke his leg. From there, he was wrestling in high school gyms. Next thing you know, he is main eventing WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
He seems to have skipped some things.
Sure.
But, yes, it was fine for what it was. He let us. It was an announcement to build his formal announcement next week, where he will do some wacky fake retirement thing, and Sting will expose him, and they will piss Hogan off, and they will have a match.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that was the show. And hey, listen, it's our biggest show of the year, and what matters are the top matches. It doesn't matter what's going on with the women. It doesn't matter what's going on with Samoa Joe and
Anderson.
Crimson and Matt Morgan and Anderson. I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, people care about those matches and you book them well. But the important thing is, what is your main event? What is your big match? What is your biggest match of the year on the biggest show of the year? And are you doing a good job with that one? And the answer is their biggest match right now, realistically, even more than Hogan and Sting, it's Bobby Roode and Kurt Angle, and they're doing an awesome job.
And by the way, something else to give them credit for here. Bobby Roode's in the fucking main event of the biggest show of the year.
Sure.
They're trying to make a new star here.
Great.
High five.
Yes. So anyway, 2 thumbs up for the show. I'll give it 2 thumbs up. All that matters to me right now is that they're not screwing up the main event. So the fact that they're not, I give this show 2 thumbs up. So we'll see where it goes next week. It's in Huntsville. It's out of the impact zone. Everybody knows where everything's going. And yeah, there we go.